Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Overwatch World Cup 2019. My name is Bren. You may recognize my voice from the Overwatch League desk, and I'm joined by the magnificent, wonderful, luxurious Sideshow Gaming.
Luxurious. Thank you.
Luxurious. Yep.
I don't believe a human being has ever been called luxurious before.
I mean, you dress in fine silks. You chill with the
absolutely
hottest
true.
guys at the greatest restaurants. You know, you eat the chillest food, all that business.
Yep.
But
Straight
we've got
out of the refrigerator.
a banging match ahead of us. You've got Japan and you've got Italy. This is going to be a fantastic one because Italy, this team, they've had a bit of a warm-up when it comes to playing against India. They gave it their all, but unfortunately not quite enough. And now they're going to be going up against one of the consistent dark horses of the Overwatch League. It's Team Japan. This is a team that's come in almost every single year that they've been in the World Cup and really upset and put themselves on the map, quite literally. They've got some fantastic players in this roster, and this is where Italy are probably going to start sweating a little bit.
I absolutely agree. I think we're in for a fantastic game here. And I would even maybe put Japan as the favorites in this matchup.
Yep.
You look at some of the players that they have available on their roster, players that we've seen at the Overwatch World Cup many times before. And then they also have players from Japan like Haku, who's been playing for XL2, getting that experience in North America, going to the Gauntlet and performing there as well. That's the kind of roster that Japan has become. That's the kind of stuff that the World Cup can do over the course of 4 years. Their scene has become recognized, players have been picked up for teams, got that experience, coming back to the World Cup to deliver even deeper bracket runs.
Now if we take a look at the map pool here, as you can see, for the second round of games, we're moving over to a slightly different order of things. You see Lijiang Tower is going to be the initial control map, followed by Eichenwald, and then eventually Junkertown, and then potentially Paris on Assault if we need it. And this is we're going to be seeing a consistent changeover in the map pool as we get further and further into these brackets themselves. But I'm anticipating very big things from this match individually. And now, Dragon Eddie, he kind of had his way with things, didn't he? A little bit in that earlier match against India. He was getting away with a lot of unconventional plays, some would say. I don't think you're going to be able to get away with it quite as much this time around. Team Japan is looking to be a very disciplined team moving into this one, and they're looking to, once again, make a name for themselves because this esports scene in Japan, it's still just kind of in the foundations as you stand. So I think they've got a couple of laws to get into the way with them actually competing on a wider level when it comes to prize pool.
And culturally, it's been very much dominated by consoles and things like that instead of PC games. I mean, you can play Overwatch on a console as well if you like to, but I don't think any of the Japanese players will actually be playing on a console here in the World Cup.
Absolutely not. They're going to be dominating on the mouse and keyboard. And we'll see. I believe the players, I was told, were getting into the game. I told the hardware was being placed, but I may have to go around there and plug it in for them.
Yeah, because there may have been lies being told.
There may have been lies being told. We don't know how long it is that we're going to be getting into this game, but who knows? Now, what do you know about Japan, Josh? Because that's what's on the line here.
I'll tell you this, actually, Bren. When I was looking up how far away certain places were from Los Angeles, looking at some travel distances, it surprised me to learn that Italy, at 6,240 miles away from Los Angeles, is significantly further than Japan is away from Los Angeles. Another 1,100 miles away. I mean, maybe that shouldn't surprise me, but I think I overestimated the size of the Pacific Ocean, which is a hard thing to do. It's large.
Yes.
It covers up a third of the Earth.
Some say I
overestimated it.
The human brain wasn't quite made to estimate distances that grand and that large.
Yeah.
You know, we built ships many years ago to sail across the seas and explore the new foundations
of the
world.
The two of us, yeah.
You know,
I enjoyed our youth together.
Not the two of us. It was actually our ancestors, Josh,
right,
but
okay.
You're getting ahead of yourself a little bit. And I believe as we're seeing these wonderful players on our screens right now, it means that Japan and Italy are going to be getting into the game very shortly. I certainly hope so because I'm raring to go, Josh, you know. I've been chomping at the bit for some Overwatch to cast. I've been sat here, waiting, ready. You know, the engine is rumbling, if you will, because I want some quality Overwatch, and I feel like I'm about to get it as we head into Lijiang Tower for Japan versus Italy, the Bracket C semi-finals, and I'm hoping to see, you know, some standard stuff, a little bit of Reaper, a little bit of Doomfist, but we'll see how it works out now.
And do not be fooled by the names over the wrong sides of your screen. It is Japan here with Tayo, with Samurai D, with Kenmo Horororo. And Italy on the other side. So let's see what we get out of Japan here, because they like to play an aggressive style, and they're actually just going to run the Reaper Doomfist Mirror, some default stuff here for both teams to begin.
Yes, as you can see now, Asta's going to get a shield advantage. The initiation comes in as well as Heartbeat leads in, if you will, with his own punch. And You can see now, Japan playing quite conservative, grouping up now, trying to work their way in and get a pick. Tayo gets knocked back with the accretion coming out. Dragon Eddie now using all of his abilities to try and get these picks, but Heartbeat going down. It's a big opening. The Doomfist player taking out a fight means your one pick potential is significantly less. 10 going for another punch and manages to nail it.
10 has been able to set off 3 or 4 rocket punches there, and none of them were attempted to be punished. There wasn't a halt, there wasn't a rock, there was nobody attempting to put damage on him, getting away with murder, and Japan just eventually bully their way through. He goes in again and tries to take the Doomfist.
Meteor Strike to get out of jail free card. The Hulk comes in and it combines. Adna falls down, and Japan are nailing this fight. Italy finally being tested, finally sweating a little bit after they put India through a little bit of a working, a little bit of a beat down. Getting a bit of a taste of their own medicine, if you will.
Absolutely, and Japan, I love to see this coordination. The halt into Doomfist ultimates, the halt Meteor Strike is absolutely crucial for you to be able to get value out of that ultimate. And 10, because he was not punished in the fight, was able to generate his ult quickly. That keeps the snowball rolling. It's Japan firmly in control.
Now look at this, the ultimates are starting to come online, the key ones at that. Sound barriers for both teams, and the Fluxes. Dragon Eddie uses it early. But Zerafi, he has the sound barrier, ends up using it. It's going to negate the Flux now as they look to try and initiate this one in. Italy try and work their way in. They're going to use the supercharger, but the Halt Flux, it brings them all down. It's 4 kills for Ken Mo, ho, 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 ho. And look at that one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beauty to withhold, and my word. I mean, Japan are just absolutely dominating, but I will say this. Don't get confused by the overway getting into bad habits again. But there we have it. I mean, Italy, they got a lot to work with ultimate-wise.
They
5 ultimates online.
They certainly do. But at 74%, it looks like Tayo's going to go for a play again. Another halt coming out from Samurai D. They are so coordinated with this. But Japan, eventually, their ultimate advantage is just too much to deal with. But they used 4 ults in that fight. They had to pop both support ults and both DPS ults just to get through Tayo's flank.
Yep, not gonna lie, that's a quite a large overcommittal, if you will. And I think Tayo really did a number on them with that early initiation. Death Blossom forced them to use a lot of ultimates to try and even engage into that. And now Japan, what have they got to work with? Well, a Coalescence, they can use that to initiate in. Again, that healing advantage, a damage advantage. It's very difficult to try and push against, but we'll see what they can work with here. 10, he's got the Meteor Strike. It allows him to really just engage freely. Tries to go for the counter punch, unable to get any values. You can see now Italy end up using a lot of their abilities. They're so weak.
Meteor Strike.
Leading it in. Meteor Strike comes in. The halt is not there, but it doesn't matter because Aso will fall regardless. And now Japan will be able to lead this one in. The punch doesn't quite connect from 10. Gets brought down in the meantime. Japan are going to start to slowly work their advantage onto the point, trying to gain a bit of ground, if you will. Dragon Eddie, though, close to this Flux, ends up using it. There's no counteract here for Japan, and he manages to get the kill onto Zerafi. No more sound barrier, no more heals being built for them, but this point is still anyone's game.
Dragon Eddie's absolutely pounding at the moment, but 10 punches him straight in the face. His back gets slapped against the wall, and Dragon Eddie's been taken down. It's
10! 2 picks for him straight off the back of this. I mean, Italy, they tried to recontest this. They had the picks available to them.
They did everything they could.
Japan have flipped the point, and they've got ults. No one's even going to be able to touch this one. Someone gets on the point. I believe it's a little young. Now Tayo, though, coming back in almost with the Death Blossom. Lays in a couple of shots with the Hellfire shotguns. Almost has it available to him. The stuns come out. Japan are absolutely slamming this team fight. Dragon Eddie sent straight up into the air from the Flux to no avail. Really, look at this one. The kills are going to roll in, and this looks like Japan are going to be taking round 1 in this fight against Italy.
What a wonderful performance by Japan here. They clean up the stragglers and secure night market, and it is just straight out of the gates at full speed from the Japanese team. They are looking to take no prisoners here at the Overwatch World Cup.
You'll love to see it, ladies and gentlemen. This is what the Overwatch World Cup was made for. Competition on a wider scale. You can see teams like Japan competing against some of the best from each and every country, and they are not disappointing in the slightest. I love it. We're starting to see the more standard stuff. You know, a little bit more unorthodox competitions were coming out earlier in the day, but these teams are rolling out with the tried and tested, the meta, if you will, and Japan may look to experiment a little bit. Tayo's going to be switching to the Symmetra just so they get the early advantage when it comes to leading onto the point. Going to be using the teleporter early on, as you can see. A lot of teams are going to be doing this. Keep an eye on this throughout the tournament.
and that's going to allow Japan to get to the point as early as humanly possible. I've been impressed with TEN so far. It's not a name that many people will be aware of. His team recently won the Open Division in the Pacific region, and
great
goes for a
counter by
counterpunch.
10. Okay, gets knocked down onto the floor very, very low. Has to back off to the rest of his team. They peel for him effectively now. Japan going to be working around the right flank, trying to gain a little bit of a positioning advantage here. They're falling so low though. The heals keep up, and Italy don't quite manage to convert it. But as I say that, Heartbeat is going to be able to pick up the kill there onto Samurai. Wonderfully done, but 10 answers back. Both the Orisa's gone, means no more shields on the point, and it's anyone's game at this point. Complete chaos. The initiation in from 10 once again. Coalescence is being flung out by both of these teams. Too much heals to really account for, and we can still see this point in favor right now for Italy, but anyone can take this one, especially when 10 utilizes the Meteor Strike just like this.
Doesn't manage to find anything though, and although 10 was alive and Heartbeat wasn't, the pop-off potential just wasn't there, and Heartbeat comes back into the fight, utilizing the gravitic flux as well. Was built up way more quickly than Kenmo got it. And Italy still in this fight, though Teo and 10 have gone wild in the meantime.
Exactly, and they have just secured this one for Japan. Italy, they secure a decent chunk of percentage when it comes to the point control. 36%. Nothing to scoff at, but Japan managed to turn this one in the back of the great DPS, the damage dealing plays from Teo and 10.
Yeah, both of the Doomfists were actually able to die and get back into the fight because of how scrappy that was. And both Moiras are starting to get back up to Coalescence, but it's Japan who's going to have double support ult available to deal with this supercharger from Italy.
I'm looking at this Meteor Strike from Heartbeat. I want to see some sort of setup. He pops it off. The hole is there. It's perfect. Zarafi ends up falling. Great punch on the Tayo is going to peel for him back. And meanwhile, the rest of Team Italy are able to just contest the ground war and win it on the other side of the point. That is great execution there from Italy. Coalescence is used, Meteor Strikes used. That's the only pieces they ended up contributing to that fight. Japan on the other side, however, are starting to build up some ultimates of their own.
I think if you're Japan in that situation and you see Heartbeat go for the Meteor Strike, you actually have to engage with your Lucio and maybe convert or use a couple of ults. At least Haku's Coalescence, because otherwise you know that the halt is going to be used. You've got to force them to use it defensively instead of just allowing them to go for this huge setup play.
Here we have it, another initiation. Coalescence is going to be used by Japan as an advantage for them. The Hulk pulls them forward a little bit, and we're going to see the supercharger by Italy really getting a lot of damage done. The sound barrier now going to be negating a lot of what the Flux can do, but Heartbeat going down is going to hurt them in the long run here. The shields are going to get broken now as Japan look to press the advantage straight across the point, just basically forcing Italy away from it with overwhelming damage. They have the shield pressure there, the punches are there as well, but the Coalescence is now built up for Italy, and they can look to try and re-engage themselves. Supercharger now going to get laid down. It's a bit of a problem for Italy, and Tayo cleans up now on the Reaper. The Death Blossom will secure 2, and a quick little burst of the Hellfire will finish off Asso as well. A nicely won team fight for Japan. However, look at the percentage for Italy.
Yes, 91%, 1-1 fight for Italy, and they'll be straight back into this map. But Japan have been good in the way that they've held on to this point. They utilized the supercharger and got big value out of it, and I love the fact that 10, at this point, now that they're in control, is focusing on punching Asso and Dragonetti to push back their tank line and make sure they get snarled up in this choke point.
Coalescence, once again, going to be used to engage this one. Great punch coming up from 10. He actually knocks out the point. That is a huge kill. Removes the speed boost, but is it going to be enough? Not enough to clutch this one. The sound barrier by Zarafi. It's so late. He only connects it onto 2-player. It's all up to Tayo to try and clutch this one out, but it is one man against the world, and what can he do? The answer is not quite a lot. We're going to start to see the stall heroes now by Japan coming onto the point to try and contest this one. But it looks like Italy are ready and waiting. Little Young has a Death Blossom. He's just waiting for the moment to just press that Q button and unleash the ultimate across the point.
Very strange from Japan to throw their bodies in order to get it ticking up, instead of regrouping for one last fight in the 9 seconds that they had available.
Test it.
They have to touch, and these players are coming off spawn.
They touch it in the end. The overtime, though, is burning the wick, if you will, if I'm to quote a good friend of mine. Now we got to see Japan are just falling by the numbers. As you can see, Italy running them down. They have the superior ult advantage and the superior composition at the end of the day. Japan, a crucial mistake at the end of that round, swapping around a lot of their heroes instead of regrouping for one final push, means that they were going to be a little bit weaker when it comes to that neutral game.
Yeah, Japan, though, have had a decent showing so far, but you can see that this match is going to be much closer than ones that we've seen previously, at least in this group so far, in Group C. We've now actually got a contest between Japan and Italy. I'm interested to see if Heartbeat sticks on this Mei, because the Mei Reaper composition was what Italy looked the cleanest with when they rolled over India just about an hour ago. Whereas Japan has really been relying on the Doomfist Reaper from the very small sample size that we've seen so far, with 10 getting a lot of value.
Well, here we have it. Japan seem to be the only team out of these two that are utilizing the Symmetra to get these more efficient rollouts. Italy going to be going with the Mei, and as you said, Josh, I'll be curious to see what value they get out of it. Heartbeat going to be leaving them in. They use the heal orb just to keep the rest of the team up. Italy falling quite low, but their wall is perfect. 10 gets caught out of position, and it's going to open up this point now for Italy. They can run across the point. You can see this. Kenmo ends up falling, and it's going to be a .1 for Italy.
Yeah, very nice use of the Mei to abuse aggressive positioning from 10, who went for that flank on the right-hand side and tried to make a play. He actually punched Heartbeat, almost got the kill, but with the recent nerfs to how quickly his rocket punch charges up, 10 was unable to land all of the damage required to finish off Heartbeat, and instead gets blocked off by that Mei wall and goes down early on. Italy in control, and it's going to be really difficult to break past this Mei wall. They've already trapped Kenmo in.
Okay, we're going to see the Coalescence now used by Italy to try and really win this fight out, and they do just that. 10 falls, which means that less opportunities now for Japan to really contest this one, and they recognize exactly what it is. They're going to back all the way off and just see where they can take the rest of this fight now as they wait for the respawns to come back in. A creation by Dragon Eddy, a little bit optimistic, 8 seconds on cooldown, hopefully back up by the time Japan start pushing. But look at this, speed boost engage in, 10 moves into the side. Coalescence now used by Haku. Japan have the heal advantage for the rest of this fight, and that's exactly what you love to see, ladies and gentlemen. Samurai picks up the 2 kills and a kill feed, but it really was a team effort, and Japan should be able to flip this point back over into their control.
There was no way that Italy were expecting that. The speed boost from Zerafi came in, and they rushed through the choke point before they even knew what was happening. Italy had no time to react. Dragon Eddy was trying to charge up his ultimate and had 10% left, but when you just get overwhelmed like that, and Japan have the Coalescence to be able to use, very difficult to be able to establish position. Can they get value out of a Flux here from Italy?
I think so. I don't think Adnar is close to the sound barrier. We'll see what he can do, but talking about Dragon Eddy with the Flux, he's going to be initiating in with it. 10 gets caught up, the Coalescence is enough, and Dragon Eddy with 2 kills! Oh my word! 3 cherry on top, if you will, and there we have it. Italy going to be able to flip this point over just as easily as Japan did moments earlier.
Well, there's a reason why we all know the name Dragon Eddy from previous World Cup performances. This guy has been impressive on any hero he picks up in the off-tank role, and continues to do it again here in 2019. The Flux, phenomenal. They utilize the Blizzard as well, perhaps unnecessary, but a decent tool to be able to use. And Japan again have to come in through this tiny choke point.
10 forced to use the Meteor Strike to try and peel this one. The Supercharger is going to get instantly deleted, and Italy are holding on once more. Using the soundbite to try and contest this one. A reasonable exchange of ultimates, if you will, to try and hold it to the point, because now Italy are 75% and counting, still holding this initial choke point, 1 round away from taking map 1.
And this will just be a neutral fight. With only 20 seconds left in the round, they have to bait out the Mei wall. It's perfect. They baited it out, the cooldown is off, and now they can engage without fear.
The first hurdle is gone. We'll see what they can do now. As you can see, Italy have disengaged up onto the high ground of the point. Now Japan are going to be searching for these off angles. 10 for a punch to hold. It's not really combined with any other ability now. Tayo in the back line. They're getting so much damage off into Asso. That's a beautiful pick-off. Bringing down the Orisa means no more shields available to work with. As you can see, the Coalescence from Italy is not enough to try and stall this point out. But now, hopefully, the Flux is Samurai. Launched up in the air, brought back down again. The damage is too much to deal with. Haku tries to keep him alive with the healing orb. Another hold comes out, but again, no combination of abilities being used, and Samurai falls as well. A wonderful battle of attrition coming out from Italy here. It's all up to 10 to try and contest this one, but it's not quite good enough as he gets punched down onto the ground. Asso collides into him with a charge, and Italy are going to be taking map 1 in this series against Japan. Fantastic showing.
Yeah, really great adaptation over the course of this map from Italy. The utilization of Mei to really punish 10 on these aggressive flanks is what won it for them in the end. And I will say towards the end there, Japan's DPS players getting slightly too far ahead of themselves. Teo burning Wraith Form a little early on, 10 gets taken down and had almost no impact when they were playing against the Mei Reaper. That's gotta hurt for Japan because they looked so dominant and very, very clean on Night Market.
Well, we have a game on our hands. That's all we can say. And I wasn't quite sure what Italy were going to be able to put up here, but the disengages were fantastic. I thought the ult usage also very good. They recognized the win conditions that were available to them. They're utilizing the Mei wonderfully. And Japan, well, they've got to come out of a little bit more than that if they want to try and take away a map from Italy. We'll see if they're able to do it on the next one. We're going to be heading to Eichenwald, if my memory serves me correct.
Yep, that
It
is
is
where we're
indeed.
going for our hybrid map. I think there's a large opportunity here for 10 to flex his hero pool a little more, show us what he's capable of. But we
Yes.
may just see both teams stick to the Reaper Doomfist kind of mirror. It's what both teams have been tending towards, but I think that Eichenwald is just so good for Bastion that if you haven't prepped that strat and another team has, you are probably going to lose. That's the meta towards the upper echelons of the game. We've seen it throughout Gauntlet, is that the Bastion strategies on both attack and defense are incredibly powerful on Eichenwald, and you need to know how to attack them, how to break them down,
Yep.
and how to set them up. We'll see whether Italy or Japan is a little more prepared when it comes to Eichenwald.
And I'll say it's one of my favorites as well, Eichenwald, to watch because of what you said. The Bastion compositions come out in the upper levels of the game. We'll see if these teams are able to really compete on those roles, or if they will just default back to more standard stuff for them, which is going to be the Doomfist, going to be the Reaper compositions. But I am curious, will we see a little bit of Farah? Eichenwald, it suits it well. As we all know, the skybox is what we call it. The height of the actual map is huge. It allows you to play a lot of unconventional heroes like the Farah to try and work in some of these attacks.
I definitely agree, and I think the fire battle between Hearthbeat and then also between 10 is going to be particularly interesting because you would expect that both of those players are the ones to be able to play that hero whilst the other person goes over to the Bastion, and a lot is decided by the Farah v Farah, which makes, it's a beautiful little added cherry on top, a little bit of flair to what would otherwise be a very static composition. That you pair the Farah alongside the Bastion gives you ability to dominate the fight from the sky or just play passive and try and bait your Bastion into big barrages. It's a beautiful composition to be able to witness at the level of play that I'm sure we'll have it at here between Italy and Japan. And the dance of ultimates is wonderful.
We'll see if they opt into that kind of composition and that sort of play. But so far, I mean, I gotta say it again. I've been very impressed with Italy's performance thus far. I wasn't sure just how real they would be after their match against India.
Yeah.
But against Japan, definitely a more formidable foe, and they've looked very clean when it comes to a lot of these ultimates. Now, I won't say completely clean. I'll just say very clean because there's always room for improvement, of course. And
Yeah.
it could be that Japan really step up their game when we come to these later points. But at the end of the day, control is where you're going to be tested on the positioning, on your individual mechanics, on your ultimate usage, really the core fundamentals of Overwatch as a game.
And I've been impressed with Hearthbeat. He's somebody that I've been looking at over the course of these two games that we've had the pleasure to witness from Team Italy. And we've seen him play the Mei, we've seen him play some Doomfist, and we've seen him play the Farah so far. And I think that his Mei walls are pretty good. They're very intelligent, the usage of them. They tend to catch people out, and they've been able to overwhelm people a lot of the time, utilizing Mei Reaper and speed boosting very aggressively. So I want to see more out of them. That Mei can be a very effective counter to Bastion kind of compositions, and you tend to see a lot of Reaper Mei once it gets into the later stages of Eichenwald. Once you actually get inside the castle itself,
Yep.
the Mei is almost certainly going to be coming out for Hearthbeat.
Choke points start to be utilized a lot more, and we'll see. Again, might have to go around to the players and say, hey boys, what's going on?
Well, just to run through kind of Japan, because they have a slightly different team this year. Some names that I'm sure most people will be familiar with from their previous World Cup. The tank line of Samurai D and Kenmo Hororo, which a wonderful name. Absolutely wonderful name.
I only butchered it once or twice during the cast, yeah.
They are
Tayo as well, of course.
Yes, Tayo as well returning. Took a short break from the game, I believe, but is back here playing for Japan, playing on the Reaper, playing his classic aggressive style, but with a lot of mechanical skill to be able to back it up. And three of their other players, Zarafi, the Lucio, Ten, who we saw on Doomfist, and Hoshimi, who is their backup for this event, their 7th player, all come from a team who's been playing in the Pacific Division called Greenleaves, who recently won Open Division. So this is a team that's on the rise, and they're starting to try and show that Japan can compete against some of these other teams from Thailand, from Hong Kong, from a range of different areas.
Yes, and it's been so good to watch a lot of these teams just competing, really just trying to work their way into the later brackets of the game. You know, of course, the BlizzCon main event, which is going to be taking place tomorrow on the Friday, and of course, the main event, if you will, where we really start to see the cream of the crop start to clash against each other, which is going to be taking place on the Saturday. But for now, we've got these preliminary rounds. is where we find to work out a lot of these teams. And we're just waiting for now for seeing where the map is going to be going again. I'm going to try and find out some information for us, chat. Listen, if I have to go around there and start, button some heads together, I will. I'll make sure this game starts, don't you worry. But it's just a few hardware issues. They're working out some audio stuff as it stands for some of these teams or for some of the players that are coming into this.
Bren, I know you prepared a lovely essay about Parmesan cheese for us in the previous match when we were watching Italy take on India. What do you have for us in terms of Japanese cuisine? Have you been looking into how a lot of that has been made?
Well, I consider myself a massive weeb.
Right,
And
okay.
as a result, I've consumed a lot of culture of Japan,
Right.
but through children's cartoons.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm the greatest source when it
Sure.
comes to this kind of stuff.
Not a leading expert.
Not a leading
particularly.
expert, but I learned a couple of words in my time. Arigato means thank you.
Well, there you go.
Um,
So one word. You've learned one word in your time.
yes, I mean
Well, that's okay.
I know a couple of more, but I'm saving them for the cast. I want the opportunity to drop them in with fluidity, if you will.
Sure, absolutely.
Seamless, I'm just hunting for those clips at the end, After every cast, I'm always on my phone. I'm like, does the internet love me yet? And if the answer's no, then I cry myself to sleep. But
Well, one day you won't have to cry yourself to sleep. I'm sure someone will love you eventually, Brendan.
and one day, the match will begin on Eichenwald. Legends tell of the tale, the Italy versus Japan match, what we've been waiting for eons.
What do you think? What were your expectations coming into this match? Because I said at the beginning that I thought that Japan were perhaps slight favourites in this match over Italy.
Yep.
Given their performance in previous World Cups, their dark horse ability. If you're a dark horse for 3 years in a row, at some point you have to start becoming the favourite in some of the matchups. What were your expectations for this?
Similar to you, I expected Japan to be a bit more of a dark horse coming into this. Italy, still, I thought actually would be the underdogs in this match individually because we hadn't really seen them tested that much. We know Dragon Eddie is more than capable, but the entire squad itself hasn't really been tested as of yet. And I thought Japan would be the true test, if you will. And they've definitely been putting up a reasonable fight. But it looks like Italy are very clean when it comes to a lot of their engages and whatnot, and they have impressed me to a degree. The question is though, are Japan going to be bringing out some wacky stuff? And these later game modes, when we get into the hybrid, when we get into the escort, it definitely changes the way you need to play the game. And Control does favor those teams where they do have the communication aspect down a lot more. But when the maps are opened up into a wide variety of ways, like Eichenwald, like Junkertown in particular, you start to see some wacky stuff come out. And that's what I'm hoping for between these two teams. Italy and Japan, we're going to be heading into map number 2. If you're just joining us, hello, welcome to the Overwatch World Cup 2019. My name is Bren. I'm joined by Sideshow. We're bringing you the match. You might recognize us, I should say, from the Overwatch League desk. But today, we're going to be bringing it to you live during the match. And it looks like Italy are going to be running with Heartbeat on the May, at least prematurely. They might just be baiting us, as teams like to do. Because, again, they've got a little bit of setup time. They've got a bit of time to really just work and see what they want to be running.
I think for Italy, this is a decent composition to try and defend with. I would say that the Bastion Farah is what I would consider meta and the best way to be able to defend Eichenwald point A, but the May Reaper can be hyper effective, and for a team like Italy, where we've already seen them take aggressive engagements and get big value out of the Lucio speed boost, it makes most sense for their style to stick to this May Reaper. But it's going to allow opportunities for Japan.
Hold up, wait a minute. 10 is going to be going for an opening pick here. I love this. He's scanning for the Farah because they anticipate a defensive Farah, recognizes they don't have it, switches it over. So now we're going to see the Doomfist Farah composition. This has been ran by a couple of teams, but now we're going to start to see Japan, switching it all up. They recognize that there is no Farah war to be won, as Italy are not running it on the defense. Instead, opting for the Doomfist Reaper, much better in a neutral game.
Yes, absolutely. It is, I would say, a slight soft counter to the May Reaper if you can pull it off effectively. You have that one-shot potential coming out from 10. If you can get Halt rocket punches synced up together, then Japan will be in a good position. But so far, Heartbeat continues to get great value out of the May.
I mean, the early aggression coming out from Italy here, this is what they did against India. We didn't know if they were for real yet, but they're pulling it out against Japan. Adnar is calling these speed boosts, he's initiating it effectively, and he's getting so much damage done.
And again, Dragon Eddy on these off angles means that he can slow people down, he can put a shield in front of their faces, while Heartbeat is with his Orisa, making sure that they can freeze people up and isolate people with the walls. They've just sliced the backline from the front line.
Coalescence is going to get pumped off by both these teams here, and it's going to be the one-for-one trade. Lil Young has to back off, using the Wraith form defensively rather than aggressively. Freyu going down for Italy means they do not have a Coalescence available to them. That was a critical pickup for them, and 10 is causing havoc. Look at it, the 3K for him, absolutely demolishing the back lines, and Japan cracked this point wide open.
So well played by 10. If you're playing Doomfist Reaper into a Mei Reaper, you have the responsibility to get those picks for your team. You are the difference maker, and you must step up. 10 didn't manage to do that in the previous map once we got towards the later stages, but there picks up 3 kills. 1 was enough, but he gives us 3, and Japan are able to crack open point A and head towards the portcullis.
But now we're going to be at one of the hardest points in the game to push out of. Dragon Eddy, he has the flux available to him. Heartbeat, I should say though, picking up a little entry kill down to 10. I mean, the flux doesn't even need to be needed. What more do I say? This is instantly a one fight off the back of that one pick. Japan can't allow these little picks to just come out of here, because Italy will punish you, and now they have an advantage in terms of the positioning. They can just hold them at this choke point.
It seems like we're starting to get a feel for these teams' personalities as well. Japan, both of their DPS players like to play a little more spread out. It's Hoshimi coming in instead of Tayo this time, but they're still playing a little bit more loose with their gameplay.
Yeah, and I mean, the flux is just going to be uncontested. There's no sound barrier to stop it. 10 ends up using his Meteor Strike to no avail once more. I believe he got a little bit low as he tried to engage and create an opening for his team, and popped it off just before it was too late to really take it back, if you will. Probably wishes he had that one still in the war chest, but now we see Italy with a lot to work with even now. A Supercharger, a Coalescence, a Soundbar almost coming online. Japan on the other side are going to try to make it work. They are almost mirroring them, as you can start to see. And there's the aggressive play style of 10. He gets the entry kill onto Asso, focusing down the tanks. The Coalescent provides enough sustain that Japan are able to just roll all over Italy.
I want to give a Haku a shout out there as well. The XL2 support is able to kite back away from Lil Young, who he knew was going to come in with the Death Blossom, and then get the Coalescence onto him and ensure that he was eliminated from the fight. I thought that Team Italy there was in a great position to speed boost engage, get value out of the Death Blossom alongside their Supercharger, but Japan just power on through.
Now we see a bit of an advantage here for Japan in terms of what ultimates they can use. And Italy are taking a very aggressive approach. Supercharger is dropped off on the bridge, and now we're starting to see a lot of ultimates being used here. Supercharger used aggressively, not saving it for really the flux as he gets to come out. They just want to clean up the rest of this team fight. Seal the deal, if you will. Now, you can argue that that was a bit of an overextension of ultimates.
I certainly would.
But at the same time, it won them the point, and you can't argue with results.
Well, you can sometimes argue with results.
You can sometimes argue with results, which Josh is about to do.
Well, Kenmo Hororo still has his flux available. He can flux one of these entrances and force out a sound barrier really early on, and that's what he's going to do. Goes out, the counter is there from Adnar, but Dragon Eddy is still so weak.
Great punch from 10, initiates in for a very low 33 HP. Has to disengage to the back of the rest of his team using that seismic slam. Now he's hunting for the punches. Heartbeat very, very low. And this is going to be another one fight now for Japan, as they absolutely rocked Italy off the point. And it was a decent attempt to try and re-engage that from Italy. Adnar was saving the sound barrier for the flux to come out on the opposition. They almost managed to just get off a reasonable beat to try and recontest that one. But Japan managed to clutch it up in the end with some fantastic halts.
And the way that this meta goes, you only particularly get 3 opportunities to contest on Eichenwald point B, and one of them is always right before that choke point. Dragon Eddy in with an aggressive engage. 10's already found a pick, and all of the damage from this flux just isn't going to get followed up on.
And this aggressive playstyle from 10 is working out in dividends, and as you can see now, Japan taking the positional advantage. The shield laid forward. The Meteor Strike gets no value, as the Sigma shield was there to try and stop it. But these punches by 10, the aggression from the boy, it's just come out of absolutely nowhere. Once again, setting his team up. Death Blossom from Lil Young, though, has absolutely turned this one in the favor of Italy, and the punch from Heartbeat will follow it up. Japan forced to back off and recontest at a later date.
Yep, a little overeager from Japan there. They had the advantage in the fight. If they had backed up and been aware of Lil Young, scouted him out, that would have certainly been a one fight. But how clutch from the Reaper player from Italy to be able to find a 2K Death Blossom in the midst of that. I believe I want to give credit to a bit of an assist from Samurai D, who managed to halt him back into the hole of his team.
Not ideal.
Not quite ideal,
Yep,
but these things happen. 2 minutes still on the clock for Japan, and a war chest of ultimates to be able to use. A Flux into a Death Blossom alongside the Supercharger almost guarantees a fight win when there's no sound barrier for Edna.
Well, that is so close now. We're going to start to see the speed boost engage from Japan. Krisha comes into the backline, but Ray Form just narrowly avoids it with Lil Young. Coalescence is being used here.
Wonderful
send them
halt.
all the way down! And there we have it. Japan overwhelmingly win that team fight. They just use everything they've got. Will be taking this one in 1 minute 40 seconds, or 1 minute 46 seconds, I should say, or 3 points. I think they can be very pleased with that.
Oh, absolutely. Their execution was very good. And because they play a loose, aggressive style, they're able to carry momentum from one fight into another. And it's Italy that are forced to react and play a little slower, which does not fit the tempo of Italy. They like taking control of the fights. They like speed boost engaging. They like grabbing the Mei and separating people off. But Japan forced them to play to their tune and end up taking a very, very strong time on Eichenwald point C.
Yes, now I'm curious as well, what will Italy roll out with in the damage deal departments? Because on the defense, we saw them actually running with the Reaper Mei a lot of the time. They love to utilize these Mei also to try and sort of split off the enemy team, try and get these entry picks playing with the speed boost a lot of the time. And Japan, they were opting into this Pharaoh duel. And you can see on the defense, it looks like they might do it. Hashimi wants to try and run it.
I love this. I really do think that this is a fantastic composition.
It is a really good comp.
It's fairly easy to execute. It has one kind of main goal and a couple of moving pieces. So teams at the World Cup that haven't had as much time to be able to scrim together can execute it more easily, I think, to a higher level than something like the Reaper Doomfist kind of compositions. And if you figure out the rotations and the way to use your abilities, it's going to be so difficult for Italy to crack.
Yes. And it is almost a battle on two fronts, if you will. You have this Bastion set up in the back. You have the Fire Mercy in the sky. Lil Young is going to be sending a little bit of recon, a little bit of scouting here. Wants to send it up, see what they're running. They are opting for a Sombra. They're opting for a Hanzo for the time being. Still opportunities for them to switch it back. As you can see, Heartbeat switches back with the Translocator. He's going to come straight back to spawn.
Freyu going over to the Zen, so they're actually going for a full poke composition to try and take it down. I have not seen this before in an attempt, like, I've not seen this successfully anyway, in an attempt to defeat the Bastion Farah comps, but things like that can be extremely effective. Hashimi and Zerafi have to worry about these halts, because if they get sucked into a halt, one shot from Lil Young or Heartbeat and they're dead.
Well, we're going to see a lot of damage being poked into them. They have to back around the corner into the safe closest to the Immortality field for Japan. No casualties as of yet. Hoshimi's still just trying to send in a lot of damage. Not really opting to take the 5v5 duel as it stands. Just trying to poke damage onto the ground, but already a tick now for Italy as they've gained advantage of ground on the floor. Now we see the amplification matrix. This is often a win condition for a lot of these teams, but the angles being played by Italy are brilliant. They're not giving any ground as of yet. Lil Young falling, though, does make things, admittedly, a lot more difficult as Hashimi's now going in straight for the kill, straight for the jugular. Gonna back off a little bit now, just trying to send in a couple of these rockets onto these players, but it is very chaotic, very scrappy. Heartbeat unleashing the barrage will find 2 picks, and that might be just the opening that they need.
Well, they have got the Rez out onto the Orisa, Rez on the other side on the Heartbeat as well. This fight has become incredibly chaotic as Samurai ID and Kenmo on the ground trying to hold things together. But Samurai ID falls, the Transcendence from Freyu, who was allowed to get into position without being punished from Hashimi, and they end up overwhelming. A very nice use of positioning by Italy. They had to spread out, and the difficulty with this poke composition is, yes, you are shredding the shields from Samurai and from Kenmo, but you normally lose people on the approach because you can't face the Bastion sightlines and you have to worry about the Farah. But they did such a great job playing safe, but still putting pressure on Hashimi, and Italy come out with a very good win there that shows they were prepared for this strategy on Eichenwald.
I gotta say, I hate to be disappointed in Japan, but expecting a little bit more from Hashimi, but they're going to be moving in now. The Flux is going to be used to initiate in. Dragon Eddy once again picking up kills. This seems to be a staple of this man's career thus far. Italy having no issues whatsoever making it through this choke point. And Japan, they take this team fight. They are switching back over to a more decent composition when it comes to taking these neutral engagements. They switched just before. back over to the Reaper Doomfist. However, losing this opening, you don't want to be doing this. This is a great position to be defending from because you have an advantage from the high ground, and it's a really nightmarish choke as well to push out of.
For Italy, they want to keep the momentum going. They're taking forward positions and they're looking for an opportunity to use the Supercharger. Because if they wait too long, Japan's going to have Supercharger and a Gravitic Flux that they have no answer to. And Japan's already in position.
Supercharger laid down for Italy, seeing if they can get any picks. The damage output is elite. It is quite daunting for them. Now you get to see now Hoshima drops down from behind. Heartbeat ends up going down there. The Coalescence is dealing so much damage to them. He's getting maximum value out of it. Flux from off the side, the off angle from Kenmo will not really get too much value out of it, but Hoshimi is able to follow up on a lot of the damage. In fact, 2 kills for him means that he has opened this one up, cracked it if you will, and there we are. The kid also quite cracked himself, if I do say so myself.
Italy had one opportunity there with their Supercharger and just didn't manage to find the value that they needed. Japan did a great job at hiding behind the cart, making sure that they used that as a third shield, essentially, and then got value out of their Gravitic Flux towards the end. Good work from Kenmo. He knew that he had to put himself in a position of danger to get a big Flux, but that was their win condition. And Italy slowed down once more with 2 minutes and 30 on the clock, but they have their own Flux.
Moving for the castle now, though, as you said, they have their own Flux. Dragon Eddie going to be looking to try and get value out of the Flux. Great hold, pushes 10 down, and a great punch as well from Heartbeat. Takes down Kenmo. Sandbar used by by Italy, I should say. And it's a little bit of an overextension of ultimates, I want to say, actually, from the side of Italy. Yes, it was a clean fight. Yes, they won it in a very overwhelming fashion. And Japan on the other side, I've only just noticed, actually, ended up popping ultimates of their own. So, not clean from either side.
Not clean from either side, sure, but I think it was winnable for both sides, so they both wanted to invest into it. You, of course, have the Flux available for Eddie, but it will be countered by the Sound Barrier. A very similar situation to previously. Here comes the Sound Barrier from Zerafi, catches 4 of them, and he's going to keep them alive. But this is still positional advantage for Italy.
Okay, but Tendo, when he's in this position, we've seen him clutch before, and he's already get the kill onto Little Young. That takes out a significant chunk of their damage with him out of the action. You see the Coalescence just about faded there from Freyu, and he's just trying to keep his team alive, but it's not really going to be good enough, and this is going to be a win. You can see Asa was just resetting by just running himself down into the River of Eichenwald. I believe we've had many discussions on this, Josh, of the lore of the River of Eichenwald, where it's based from, the river basin, if you will, the origination of it.
That's what most of our conversations are about, yeah, Brian.
Couldn't come to a solid conclusion about it, though, and we probably still won't during this cast. In fact, the people probably want to hear...
It's a fictional location.
True. Yeah, you might be right with that one.
All right, Italy with a great position now to get stuff done, though, because they're going to be attacking with a Supercharger. I think a lot of pressure here on 10. 10 goes down. He was the win condition for Japan.
Bro, he gets absolutely brutalized. A fantastic little boop there from Heartbeat, or onto Heartbeat, will not allow him to connect the punch-up, but his Coalescence from Italy is brutal. He's getting maximum value. Freyu is demolishing them, dealing damage and keeping his team up at the same time simultaneously. That is the entire goal of the ultimate at the end of the day, and it will mean that Italy, after actually a very solid defense from Japan, driving them to a very low portion of time when it comes to their time back, they are able to crack this second point open with 2 minutes now on the clock to try and push this. However, this does mean now that Japan are going to have a successful time, regardless of if Italy manage to push it all the way in.
Yeah, absolutely. The time back advantage already here for Japan, but they are looking to halt this payload completely. Italy still have ults to be able to work with. An aggressive Flux from Dragon Eddie is what he's going for, but they put so much pressure on him very early on, and Kenmo and Samurai D have still fallen. They overcommitted to Dragon Eddie.
Fantastic by Italy. Again, I mean, we've praised them on their ability to disengage from a lot of these team fights, and they're just doing it over and over again. And Japan really abusing the nature of a lot of their damage-dealing players, where they love to initiate it, they love to play aggressively, they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. Of course, they want to perform for their team on the world stage. And 10, okay, all right, a little bit of a change of pace there. The pick on's a little young is definitely what they needed to try and at least get some sort of foothold on this defense.
60 seconds.
Japan are in a position with only 60 seconds left to defend, where this next fight will define, I think, the entirety of how this map goes. Ultimates across the board for both teams, but Samurai D starting to get up to his Supercharger could be the big difference in the fight. A nice hold, but not comboed with a punch to begin.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen. You can start to see now Italy unleashing the Soundbire, using that HP advantage to their advantage to a degree, but look at this, the Flux comes out now from Japan, and nothing can stop it as the Soundbire fades away in the nick of time for Japan to get maximum value out of it. Fantastic fight from them. 20 seconds remaining now for Italy to try and make a play.
If they're not able to get here in 15 seconds and cause a major upset, then Japan will tie the series up. Their offense was spectacular. Their defense has been very good as well. Aso with his supercharger. They need to touch the point within the next 5. They're snaggling the back already. Adnar weak. The back line destroyed by 10.
10 is demolishing right now. He's already picked up a kill onto a crucial support. Gets stunned up by the accretion, but it looks like Japan is ready to battle back. Hashimi now absolutely slaughtering them with the Hellfire shotguns, ripping into Italy. The overtime is there, but I don't think it's going to be good enough for Italy, as they only have a few little dregs of players left to try and contest this point. And Italy not able to do it. They're going to be able to send in 1 or 2 players, but I think, Josh, I just think that Japan might be equalizing this one up 1-1.
They certainly are, with only half-beat left. As he goes into the air with his Meteor Strike, the overtime wick burns away, and it's Japan at 1-1 in this series, firing back with honestly a dominant showing on Eichenwald.
Yes.
To complete with 1:46 left, and then to hold your opponents, to hold Italy in that point C, very strong showing, and a sign that Japan are here to stay.
Well, this is what we said we wanted to see from Japan, actually, and we were a little bit worried just before this map was played, and we were curious, how are they going to bounce back after this control map? Because normally, control map, a good indication of a lot of skills, the fundamentals of Overwatch. Japan really came out swinging. Very aggressive DPS plays, very impressed from 10 and Hashimi as well.
Yeah,
Who
and
actually
making-
was just subbed in for that map.
Absolutely, making great use of their roster as well. Hashimi coming in when he doesn't just have to play Reaper, and Teo sits to the bench. So Japan with a strategy there that worked out very well for them on Eichenwald. It didn't really come down to the Bastion play, neither team opting into that, instead looking for the majority of the time to fight the Reaper Doomfist mirror. And overall, even though Japan's DPS occasionally getting caught out of position and losing their life and losing a couple of team fights for Japan, it has been the overwhelming aggression and continuation of momentum that got them the advantage on Eichenwald, especially during the payload portions.
Yeah, I've always thought that I think the best style of Overwatch to try and play is that very aggressive play style, because it forces teams to react to you and play to your tempo and your pace. And if you have an undisciplined team and they can't keep up with a lot of the calls, you often find that you can just roll over a lot of teams who aren't ready for that style of play. Now, Italy have seemed quite good with a lot of these speed boost disengages, and they do seem like quite a disciplined squad. But Japan flexing the bench that they've got, which a lot of these teams at the World Cup have actually opted to just carry 6 members of the team.
Or a
instead,
7th player as the coach, yeah.
Yes, or a 7th player as the coach instead, really trying to make full usage of the roster spots. Japan actually going for a 7th player, interestingly enough. And it worked out in dividends here for Eichenwald. They sub him in. Hiroshima has, so many more heroes at his disposal. So thoroughly impressed with Japan and the way they played that.
Junkertown is going to be interesting.
Yes,
It's
it is,
always interesting. It's always a crazy map. You see the pirate ship compositions. We've seen double sniper in the past. It's not something where you would expect to see double sniper compositions anymore. But throughout this tournament, I've been keeping an eye on some of the other games that have been happening in our second round of the brackets. And we've seen teams even running the Pharah, running Widowmaker, running Hanzo compositions, running some Roadhog at times. Not always to success, but there have been a range of strategies deployed on this map. It's just so wide open that it gives you an opportunity to create some chaos.
Now, I will say as well, I mean, it's always been one of those classic maps, hasn't it? You just see some kind of wacky stuff come out. What are the odds that we see a selfless style spawn camp? An old classic on Junkertown. I'm not going to lie, mate. We've pulled it out in ranked games before. It works too well.
I have a slight suspicion that Team Italy and Team Japan, the best possible players that you can gather from those nations, are marginally better, and by marginally I mean incredibly better, than your level of ranked gameplay.
You're trying to imply that I can play on the main stage?
If Team UK are watching, after having obliterated their side of the bracket, presumably.
Are they in a game right now? Maybe.
No, they've 3-0'd both Iceland and Norway, Team UK.
Well,
so.
that's a classic. It's just in our blood, really, to compete,
I don't think that they're looking for another player, but if they are, I'll send your details over. I'm sure they'll be very
I was
impressed.
in early discussions to be the 7th man for Team UK.
Early as in before they realized they had good players available?
Yes. Many hot tub sessions, could have been some lemonade being passed around. discussions had, but there was a serious conversation that the Brothermaker would have been joining Team UK as the 7th man. Now, enough about me. Let's talk about the Overwatch World Cup, because we're not here for me. Let's face it. Some of you are, probably around 5% if I was to estimate of the chat.
Where'd you get those numbers from?
My data team, the analytics.
Okay,
I've got them working, crunching the numbers in the
Bren
back.
is always surrounded by a team of analysts. He's really big into the numbers. Bren on the desk, he
Big
always
numbers.
says, think about the numbers, believe the numbers.
Yes, and I tell you what, I mean, I wonder what Japan are going to be opting in for when it comes to their roster. Now, we saw a bit of flexing around when it comes to Eichenwald. At Junkertown, you do see some erroneous results with it, from here and there. A bit less so, less than we used to see, actually, compared to early on when we were in the Mercy meta of early 2017, or I should say early 2018.
For sure.
But still an interesting map nonetheless.
I think from what we've seen so far, it seems likely to me that Hashimi came in as the Bastion specialist for Team Japan, and without they could opt into a Bastion on Junkertown, but then you kind of lock yourself into one composition. Although they could flex over to the May Reaper or the Doomfist Reaper as well. What I'm interested in instead, though, is that Teo has shown us very good hit scan prowess playing for Team Japan in the past. Over previous World Cups, we know him as a player that came out and in his first showing rocked the world and rocked Taimu and the rest of Finland on his McCree and Widowmaker previously. So this is a player that has proficiency on those heroes if Japan want things to get a little weird and throw a sniper into the mix.
I'd love to see it, honestly. I really would. But given how long it's been taking to get into this map, I would assume, I'm making an assumption here, that they may be subbing Hiroshima out and putting Tayo in. So this is just an assumption purely on my part, because it does take a little bit of time to swap out the peripherals, swap these players in, and the information I have to go off is
sparse.
It's limited, but here there we have it. It was a sub being made.
You are a
Japan.
genius, Brennan.
I read it. I read the book.
Read it like a book.
Yeah, read it like a book, the book, whatever book. You been reading any books recently?
Yep.
Ready for battle.
Gonna go into more detail than that?
Not particularly, honestly.
Okay. Yeah,
I've been reading some lovely books, but none of them have anything. Neither of them are Japanese or Italian.
I've been reading *Sapiens: The History of Humankind*.
Really?
It's been blowing my mind.
Is it blowing your mind because you have come to the realization you are not a part of our species, and instead are the missing link?
Well, isn't yes, people have made the assumption that I might be part Homo erectus. Yes, that has been claimed before. Is there any truth to those kind of claims? I don't think so. Avast is looking at me right now. He's nodding. I disagree, personally. I disagree. But we're going to be getting into something slightly more important than talking about my my lineage and human history, which is Italy versus Japan in the Overwatch World Cup of 2019 on Junkertown.
And this is very interesting because Tayo is running a Symmetra. This is a pocket strat that Japan have come out with, and it teleports 10 to the high ground where he's going to be playing the Bastion and forces Italy to dance to their tune.
I love this.
Haku with a Bionade as well on a half-beaten Dragonhead. He does wear off. There's not much opportunity to capitalize on stuff like that. But how do you block the payload if you're Italy? You have to wander into the Bastion sightline.
Yes, this is a beautiful strategy, well tailored from Japan. I mean, they thought about this, and they've actually come out swinging against Italy. Italy, typically able to use sightlines very effectively against these Bastion compositions like we saw previously on Eichenwald. Struggling a little bit now, however, Japan do still have this spawner's advantage. Remember, they are the attacking team. They're respawning a lot faster. The Immortality field is going to be coming out now from Japan, saving Kenmo from going down, and he's built up a Flux early. This is going to be critical, because look at Abnar's ult percentage. The Soundbar is the only thing that can kind of negate this as it stands. He's got to get value out of it. The Flux is going to be used, brings up 2 players. Great stun coming out from Dragon Eddy, and it's going to be enough. Italy able to hold on here as they end up incorporating the Coalescence into their defense.
10 was just too far away to be able to capitalize on the players. Kenmo lifted them all up into 10's sightline, but they just could not get value. And it was actually, I think, Dragon Eddy who was able to put his shield in front of the players who were lifted up in the air by the Flux and stopped them from dying. And that has stopped Japan's Bastion strat in their tracks. This Bastion symmetric composition that can have so much momentum has been utterly quashed.
Well, Japan have got a nano boost to work with. They're going to use it onto 10. This is the guy who's been their bread and butter. The punch comes out, but no avail. Frozen up in the blizzard, and he's brought down. Their main damage dealer for Japan taken out. Lil Young is going to be cleaning up the backline, and Japan are forced to come back, count their losses, and reset into the next fight.
Italy playing so disciplined here. Over the course of today, throughout their stomping of India and then their success in the first map, in this series that is, they have been a very disciplined team that works around their Lucio sound, the speed boost, and is able to play corners and positioning very effectively.
Well, we're now going to see the flux being used here by Dragon Eddie. No sound barrier in sight for Zerafi, so they can even counter it if they wanted to. And straight off the back of that, again, it's kind of one of those ultimates that if it's used and you have no counter to it, whether it's speed boost disengaging or whether it's a sound barrier, you're going to be kind of lost in these fights.
Absolutely, and these teams haven't quite had the synergy and scrim experience together to be able to anticipate when people like Dragon Eddie are going to use these gravitic fluxes and play a little more spread out. Orisa's frequently getting caught in it when they have their fortifies available, these kind of things. And Japan starting to tick up to that second wave of ultimates, but there is only 1 minute on the clock and a very, very early play. They're going to go for the Death Blossom.
Supercharger comes out with the Coalescence and combined, it's a deadly duo. Already picking up 2 kills. Japan instantly disengaged. That's actually very disciplined from Japan. I'm pleased to see that. They don't take any more losses.
But also very disciplined from Lil Young. He realized he was walled off from his team and did not have the sightline to his supercharger, and so doesn't go for a heroic Death Blossom in the backlines. Instead saves it, and they can try and pair it along with this Blizzard from Heartbeat.
But here we have it, a lot of pressure being put down now as the supercharger comes out from Japan. Coalescence as well. They all come tumbling down. 3 kills for Haku, the XL2 support player. And that will do it, ladies and gentlemen. 2 ultimates used, a lot of value from it, but they were 2 very big ones for Japan. And look at the cart's movement. Hasn't really moved that far. They've still got 1 more point on the first initial checkpoint.
Japan need to spread out here and look for a big flux. If they group together on the cart, they are all going to get caught by the Blizzard, and Heartbeat and Lil Young will be able to carry this. Nice aggression!
Oh wow, forces out the sound barrier super early, but Dragon Eddie again instantly with the accretion straight in the air. All the ultimates being used. Italy look like they're winning this one. It's salvaged. The Blizzard up the back of it is freezing up every single entity on the side of Japan, and they are being brought down, showing absolutely no mercy. The overtime will tick down, and Italy with one of the best holds I've seen in quite some time so far for the World Cup.
Really nice positioning from Italy. Great use of all of their ultimates. Aggression when it was required, kiting when it wasn't, making sure that they baited resources out of Japan and punished their aggressive DPS players. And what a recontest there. Getting huge value out of a sound barrier from Adnar, who's been playing really, really well for Italy this entire tournament so far. And then, obviously, the huge Death Blossom and Blizzard at the end from their DPS, who have still managed to get so much value despite playing very disciplined. They don't need to overextend to keep popping up in the kill feed. Lil Young and Heartbeat are just playing consistently and delivering when it matters.
Now, I will say, this is what separates the elite teams from the good, and it's managing to keep your cool. It's an aspect we don't really talk about a lot during a lot of these games, but it's a very, very important one, and it's not actually getting, as we call it in the industry, mentally boomed. So Japan needs to just solid their mental a little bit.
Yep.
And reset themselves,
yourself.
because often a lot of teams get taken for a loss for words when they get stopped very early in these fights. But it looks like Japan are going to be rolling out with some standard stuff. Going for the Reaper, going for the Doomfist. Nothing cheesy, nothing too crazy. I was hoping for a little bit of maybe a spawn camp. We've seen Bastion Batiste comps being ran actually physically on the cart. But instead they're going for something slightly cheekier. They're going to start to try and engage with the sound barrier now. Or the speed boost, I should say.
Yes. They're doing the same thing that Italy did, but they don't have the Mei. So that doesn't really allow you to block people off, but 10 needs to be coming up with picks.
See how it works, though. I mean, look at this. We can see Italy rolling out on the card. They're checking the corners. They are cautious of this. They spot out Teo. But look at this. The counter engage comes from behind. The big wrap around of 2019. Halt comes together, and Japan wants to defend on the point. Whoa! Maximum value from 10 into the seismic slam. Gets so much work done and builds up 40% of his ultimate almost immediately.
That's outrageous. Outrageous, the amount of shielding that he got there from a 5-man seismic slam and then 5-man uppercut.
Absurd.
And the CC just won them the fight.
And now look at this, they're holding at every single angle. 10 comes up, again another uppercut, disengages with the punch and moves back. They need to try and kite back away from this coalescence. Tendo casts his punch, doesn't want to try and initiate in as of yet. still playing this very cautiously, patiently, working their way around the point now. It's going to be using the Ice Wall, and they pick up a kill there onto Kenmo and Samurai. Both falling means no more tank line for Japan. Ten's got to try and clutch this one, but his punch will not be good enough. Teo, though, trying his best, is going to get brought down. A meteor strike forced out of 10 as well. Italy are going to be able to push this card even further forward.
And Japan just haven't quite figured out the spacing that is required to play into May Reaper. They need to either be playing a little further back or a little more spread out. At the moment, they are clumped up perfectly in the distance required for Heartbeat to shove these May walls right between the front line and the back line. And this looks so dire for Team Japan here.
It really is.
Italy have all of their ults available.
Serafi needs to build up the soundbite, but it's not good enough. The soundbite comes up, but now Dragon Eddy is free to use his flux, and there's nothing to stop it. Italy absolutely demolishing Japan, rolling them over, and they are looking like they're going to be securing a nice early map here in this series, taking a 2-1 lead against Japan. Junkertown is going to go the way of Italy.
Well, neither of the previous maps were quite as one-sided as that.
That's absurd.
What an incredible performance coming out from Italy. They looked so well prepared with a strategy that, honestly, you rarely see to such a huge degree of success on Junkertown. Normally, when it gets to these May Reaper or Doomfist Reaper compositions, there's much more back and forth between the two teams. But Italy are by far and away the better team in this particular matchup of being able to play aggressively and make use of choke points. They are just bullying Japan when it comes to the back and forth of who engages first and who has to react. And that puts them up 2-1 in the series heading into Paris.
Okay, well, if you thought Junkertown was weird, well, take a seat. And let me tell you about our Lord and Savior. It's Paris. We're going to be moving on to the assault section.
Good Lord.
Japan, they may be one map away from elimination from the Overwatch World Cup 2019, but if there was ever a map that was going to save them in their time of need with weird and wacky Bastion compositions, it would be Paris, because we've seen some odd results, and I mean odd, on this map.
Absolutely. The home of the draw, the assault map Paris, is coming up next. It seems likely that Hashimi is going to be subbed in, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
you want your Bastion on this on this map for those compositions on point A defense where you can set them up and just run wild. It is so difficult on Paris to push with the May Reaper composition into that Bastion. There isn't a real good answer for it. It's just a defensively favored point.
Well, we'll see what they're capable of right now. And again, if my estimations are correct, and the reason we haven't jumped into this game so quickly is because most likely Japan are making some subs here and there and everywhere. And honestly, I'm all for it because we saw the better showing from Japan. They won when Hiroshima was in the map pool. But Josh, I believe you've been doing some research on Japan as a country. Now, I told you to prepare for the game. I meant on the players. Instead, you were just looking up facts about Japan.
I certainly was. That's really what I've been going for, is that over the course of this tournament, we see a lot of different cultures, a lot of different nationalities clash against each other. Why would I learn more about the game of Overwatch when I already watch a billion hours of Overwatch a day? I want to learn some facts about Japan. Brent, guess how many people live in Japan? And bear in mind that there are 14 billion people in Guangzhou, as we know.
That's not true. That's actually not true.
Well, I mean, it might be.
It's not. Well, I know it's not for a fact, but if I was to make an estimate of how many people live in Japan,
Yep, in Japan,
I would actually say probably around 40,000, 40 million, I should say.
40,000. That's a very small
40,000.
number.
40 million. 40 million.
40 million. There are actually 128 million people
What?
who live in Japan. It is a very, very large population. Yeah, it's
No way. Really?
I mean, I don't know. That's just what I got. Yeah, it's pretty big. It's a big old place made up of a bunch of different islands, much like Ireland, which is a lot of different connected islands, and Iceland. That's a bunch of different connected islands that are made of ice.
Also not really that true.
I mean, it's kind of true.
It's not true at all, actually. Don't listen to him.
Some of it's true.
Don't listen to him, chat. But I actually am astonished that Japan has almost double the population of the UK.
Okay, what do you think the population of Italy is?
14 mil. That's my guess.
Wow. an estimated 60 million
60 million?
is apparently the number. So yeah,
That's crazy.
twice as large for Japan as it is for Italy as well.
That is crazy.
They've packed a lot of people in that collection of islands.
I didn't know that many people lived in those countries.
Lived in a shoe.
Well, it's more of a boot.
A boot is a type of shoe, as far as I'm aware.
A boot kicking the island of Sicily.
Yes. How does the rhyme go? Big brother Italy kicking little Sicily out into the Mediterranean Sea.
Is that how the rhyme goes?
I mean, I don't know. I've just heard that before, but I
was
don't know.
never taught rhymes as a child.
No?
My family weren't fans of cultural arts. Logic was the real order in my household. Numbers,
yes.
hard facts.
Bren worshipped at the altar of logic and reason and hard facts, which is how he came to be such an incredible ambassador for the mind.
Yes, yes.
An athlete of incredible literary proportions.
I often retreat back to my mind palace and just dwell on the world and
Also
the
true.
facts of today. And I return a new man, a new being, if you will. And I promise you, Twitch chat, the game will start any minute now.
I think it would be interesting as well, now that we've played out the majority of Group A and Group B, just to give people a little run-through of any games that they might have missed previously as well. Group A and Group B were playing on the Overwatch League and Overwatch Contenders channels, along with some of the other streams that we have live over here. We're running 4 or 5 simultaneous streams here at the Overwatch World Cup. We had an incredible match earlier on, where Australia was able to beat out New Zealand in a 3-2 game.
Yeah.
Was insanely close.
Very, very
Amazing
close.
little grudge game between those two teams. And Great Britain have stomped their way through Group B as well, defeating Iceland and Norway 3-0, which honestly I thought would be much closer, but sets up Great Britain and the UK again for another deep run when, again, I didn't have faith in them.
Yes, I'll be honest with you. I spoke to a couple of the players, admittedly from teams that are already knocked out, and they said that the UK was actually not that great this year. However, their showing thus far has been very, very impressive. Now, they are going to be heading into the next round of games that are going to be occurring on, I believe, tomorrow. As you can see, they've secured their position into Group A, is what I believe it's come down to.
Yeah.
So they are going to be in the same group with Korea, France, and the USA.
What a stacked group.
That is incredibly stacked. Now, imagine how funny it would be if we knocked out the USA again. I say, while we're in Los Angeles, presumably broadcasting to a mainly American audience.
I think our audience is perfectly split between Italy and Japan.
What, 50-50?
50-50. Yep,
Caught me
those
off
are the
guard. I was trying to
demographics.
take a drink.
Those are the demographics that we're going for.
Okay. Well, you know
Well,
what, Josh? I'm sick of you.
Okay.
I want to see some Overwatch. Now, I
Well-
still want to hear you, but I don't want to see you anymore. So we're going
You
to
never
jump
did
into
see
the-
me.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. We could be casting from anywhere. You don't actually know. The moon.
Well, interesting here that even though it took a while, and our theories were that that meant Japan was going to change some people. Oh, nearly got caught. There we go. Swap the names over. It's actually Tayo going to be playing here alongside 10. So no changes across the board for either team, no substitutions made, which possibly means that we're not going to see a lot of the Bastion being played. Japan on defense here seem like they're just content running the Reaper Doomfist.
Yeah.
Which, it's a powerful comp, it's the meta comp, but I don't think that it's the best composition for Paris in general.
Yeah, we'll see how they choose to utilize it, but I gotta agree with you, Josh. I was expecting a little bit something more unorthodox coming out from Japan, but they want to roll with it. You can see Heartbeat here. He set his translocator in the spawn. He's gonna do some early scouting. Remember, information is key. Information wins wars and also games of Overwatch at the end of the day. And he's gonna be scouting out a little bit of information. Is he gonna opt to swap back?
Lil Young swaps over to the Reaper, and that signifies for Italy that they're going for a Mei Reaper composition. The Mei, very effective on this first point. The choke points and the alleyways are really quite small, and a lot of them are the same size as Mei's wall.
Wow, okay. The Mei War's going to be used defensively here to try and stop a bit of the damage, mitigate it if you will. And now we start to see Italy trying to take position. Now Tayo is chunked down to about half HP, forced backwards. Now we're going to see the initiation onto the point. They're split up with the Mei Wall evenly. Tayo brought down almost as quickly as they came out onto the point here. Italy with that one opening pick. Samurai's going to try and yoink them back with the halt, try and set up a great bit of space for his team. But it's not quite good enough. As you can see, Italy are so clean, so concise when it's coming to this Mei composition. that they're just able to just walk all over Japan.
Very intelligent Mei wall usage coming out, and 10 is forced to go for plays because the only advantage that Japan has is his one-shot ability and his potential to turn fights and clutch. He tries to go for a play, again falls, again to Adnar as well. The backline for Italy has been playing really well, fending him off in a lot of these circumstances.
Now, pay attention to the side that Italy are trying to basically engage from here, because the final point of Paris is not particularly fantastic when it comes to getting value out of Mei walls, but they're going to just do just that. 10 comes in from the side of a punch. That is beautiful. Cancels out the coalescence. You love to see it, ladies and gentlemen. These are the plays that we wanted to see coming out from Japan.
The aggression just perfect for Japan, and a flank from 10 where nobody had seen him smacks into Italy's backline and removes them from the map. Still 5 minutes for Italy, still early days, but that's a nice start for Japan. They can play aggressive in these choke points, to the left and to the right. Try and find opportunities to go aggressive. But again, if they get caught by a Mei wall, it may be all over.
We'll see what they can do, though. The Blizzard is online for Italy. They almost have a supercharge, and they've worked their way onto the point. Japan forces to contest. The Mei wall comes out nice and early, but they don't get any value out of it. In fact, it's going to be Kenmo who picks up the first kill onto the Moira, and that has opened it well and truly up. Japan able to hold on to the defense, and they didn't even use a single ultimate.
Yep, not one. Just bullied in the neutral fight there, honestly. Italy took an engagement straight through main. They hadn't flushed anybody out of the left or the right, and their Mei can find no value on the point because it's just a large open square. The Plaza doesn't have that many opportunities to go for Mei walls. And so even though they have a lot of ults available, they have to take control of either the right or the left and flush people out. Otherwise, they don't have the position to be able to win.
Glad you pointed that one out, because it is not ideal pushing with a Mei into this final point. Look how open it is right now. They're going to try and push forward. 10 goes for a punch, but gets demolished. But he does manage to bring down Freyo again. Now we're going to see the soundbar used very early on. Flux as well coming out from Japan here, able to just try and edge this fight out as they take out the main tanks, but it's going to be a trade for them. Italy still in this fight. Lil Young is demolishing Japan right now, rolling over them with the Hellfire shotguns once again. Already 2 ticks online. Japan needs to contest this. Going to see 10 come down with a meteor strike, just trying to basically hold on to this point any way that he can. But Italy are far too strong, and it's already at 93.5%, and it's looking like it's going to be a little bit more just as they clear up the remnants of these players.
Teo went for an aggressive Death Blossom towards the end, and as players trickle in, Japan are desperate to try and take what time they can away from this point, but Italy have got all of the position. Their successful push throughout the right-hand side gave them all the positioning that they needed, and that advantage was just far too strong for Japan to be able to overcome. 2 minutes and 52 seconds. That is an incredibly strong showing from Italy. They rolled over Japan, honestly.
They absolutely did, and I was surprised that they were able to get as much value as they did out of the Mei in that coming fight. But again, it's abusing the aggressive play style of 10, I think, is really what's sort of hurting Japan here.
10 has been the first death in both of the fights in which Italy won. And when you're playing defense in particular, you can't afford to be overly aggressive. You can't afford to take that many risks, because one death, especially on your Doomfist, means you don't have any clutch potential, you're down 5v6, and you probably are not going to win the fight.
We'll see what comes out now as Japan are going to be on the defending side. And I should say, it's an interesting one. The attacking side, I should say. Sorry, excuse me. Getting confused by the overlay. Perfectly reasonable. But we'll see now. I mean, this is a very good time by Italy. Paris is a map where you've often seen these times. It's one of those rare ones where often a second point capture can be quite rare. And the fact that they've managed it on quite a defender-favored map honestly bodes very well. And remember, we are just one map away now from Japan being knocked out of the 2019 Overwatch World Cup.
An unfortunate end, an unceremonious end, I would say, to a team that got a bye in the first round of the bracket. We'd be hoping for them to make a resurgence in this. And the first step is being able to take hold of point A. Looks like Italy, okay, just looking for some early ult charge, seeing if they can get a little bit rolling up there, and Freyu at 8%, 9% now at the beginning of the fight. That's going to give him a minor advantage, you know, just making the tiny little adjustments, optimizations. But really, it's going to come down to this neutral fight. Can 10 get value, or will he overextend?
Well, here we have it. They're going to be trying to push through this choke, but the ice wall is really doing a number on them.
Oh.
In fact, they pick up a kill into Samurai as a result of it, blocking him away from the rest of his team, and they bring him down. And I hate to call it, but again, another team fight that unfortunately is not really going to be clutched up here by 10 or Teo. They're going to be brought down, and these stagger kills are brutal when every single second matters.
Kenmo went for a flank there instead of dedicating his shield to keep Samurai ID alive. And when you lose your Orisa, the fight is just over. That shield is so important. And so to get hit by the ice wall, stopped, your team cut apart, and then to not try and help the players that are there, that's a big mistake by Japan. And they didn't even get their DPS players in position. Let's see where this Mei wall comes down again.
Okay, working our way.
They might even go for an aggressive flux. Is Dragon Eddy going to just go for this?
I mean, why not? I mean, he knows they don't have the sound barrier. As you can see, the flux is going to be used here. Even if it connects to one, that's still very reasonable, because that one pick is going to open this up now for Italy. And they, again, look at the aggression from them pushing forward. Japan want to answer back, though. The coalescence is going to be unleashed here by Haku. The ice wall is going to be used, again, in a defensive manner, just to try and stagnate the push from Japan here. Dragon Eddy with the accretion will collect one kill. And they all come tumbling down once more. This is not looking good for Japan.
It certainly isn't. We had such high hopes for this team at the beginning of the series, but things are starting to crumble a little bit. They need to get their heads mentally back in the game. They are just 2 minutes away, potentially, from having to go all the way back home, 5,500 miles, back to Japan. After they've enjoyed BlizzCon, of course.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be going home straight away, Josh. And also, you're implying that Japan are not about to win this next team fight. I know they don't have many ultimates online. I know that Italy have the ult advantage. But here we go. They're going to work their way around the back line. You see the Death Blossom being used here by Lil Young. Gets ate up here by the kinetic grasp of Japan. The sound barrier going to be used to try and lay this in. Tayo goes very intelligently to remove the supercharger. Takes it out of the fight, but unfortunately, it's not quite enough. As Japan, once again, are going to be losing this team fight with a minute 40 on the clock. And they use the flux in the tail moments of the fight.
Yep, very unfortunate, honestly. At desperation times, with 1 minute 30 left, Japan can feel the tension in this match. They know that their backs are against the wall, and it's desperation time. They're throwing ults in.
That's a horrible mistake.
I want to see them try and sync up halt punches. Start with the basics. You know you're getting stopped by the Mei walls. You know that's a big problem. But try and find a pick to open up the fight. If you can find a pick, you can crack open point A.
This is it. It's almost Japan's last chance, I should say, as we see now the flux coming out. And again, there's no counter follow-up to this one. Asofig picks up Ken. It's going to be the one-for-one trade. And now Italy, they can use this sound barrier freely because they know that there's not going to be a flux coming up on the enemy team. Kenmo ended up using it in the following fight.
But with 46 seconds remaining, Heartbeat did die. So with Heartbeat dead, there isn't going to be a Mei wall if Japan push very quickly. They have the spawn advantage, and they can attempt to get in through the first choke point at least without that ult being available. They still have the supercharger, but they need to move. They need to be ready to go right now.
Time is running out. Potentially one round now between Japan getting knocked out or continuing further in the tournament. And this is it. Everything's on the line right now. 18 seconds remaining. They push past the choke point. Italy going to be giving them a bit of ground as Heartbeat makes his way back to his team, and they did take advantage of that fact. Supercharger comes down.
They're doing
the corner. 10 comes in with the engage. He picks up 2. Wonderful stuff coming now from Japan. They get the slow siege, if you will, and 10 cracks it open, wins the fight for his team, and Japan are still in the Overwatch World Cup.
Wonderful performance from Japan, making use of Heartbeat's respawn. Japan with the spawn advantage managed to work their way in, take all of that ground for free, and a beautifully placed supercharger from Samurai D as well. It has sightlines onto everybody, and 10 utilizes it to find 2 quick picks. A redemption arc for the Doomfist, who hasn't really been able to find much luck over the past 2 maps.
Now we'll see what Japan are capable of, because already their time bank is less than Italy. They have less time to work with, even if they manage to cap this in the fastest time possible now. Still won't be enough, but the Mei wall comes out. Once again, defensively, he's going to split up Japan, but no follow-up kills. Remember, it's a very big map. You see the split technique coming in from Japan here. Lil Young comes into the backline, gets stunned out of the Death Blossom, but it doesn't matter regardless, because he's already picked up 3 kills now. Make it 4. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Italy with a successful defense here on this last point.
But they did use both the Blizzard and the Death Blossom for Italy. So they've used their 2 big DPS ults, and with 2 minutes remaining, Japan are going to start to gather up ultimates for one final push. They've got both DPS ults. They can try and utilize either of those to combo with a Halt from Samurai. And then they've still got the sound barrier left in reserve to counter Dragon Eddy's Flux, which is still quite difficult to get value out of in a big area like Paris Point B.
Yeah.
Japan can still do this.
Now, I want to see Japan trying to combo up some of these abilities with at least a Halt now. You can see the early Coalescence used by Italy, disengaged by Japan. This is smart, but 10 is using this Meteor Strike. He needs to follow it up with something. The Halt yanks Asso back, I believe, but they find a kill regardless if it did or not. And the initiation is perfect. Teo picks up one, second kill for him just with his normal primary fire, and he's going to be searching for it. The Fade no longer online here for Italy. They have control of the point. They have a tick. They're going to possibly get a second one, and if they kill up these stragglers, Japan will still be in this match.
Lovely work so far. Great focus fire from Japan, picking off players from Italy who are dribbling over the point. Just over a minute remaining on the time
There
bank
you go.
as they clean up every last member and are still in the Overwatch World Cup for 2019. Japan just pulling it out when it mattered.
They don't want to go down without a fight, and I appreciate that, and I love that. You know what I mean? You know what they say in Japan, Josh?
No, I don't know what they say in Japan, actually.
Omaya wa Mushindaru.
Yes, but that doesn't make any sense because we were talking about them trying to stay alive and you've just said you are already dead.
Yeah, Japan just said that to Italy.
Ah.
As a cat, bro.
Right.
As a cat. That's
Sure,
what they were saying.
of
That's what they were
course.
saying, fam.
Right,
Okay?
of course, of course.
Listen, my linguistics knowledge on point.
Absolutely.
Elite. On another
you are
level.
elite.
Thank you.
So Japan are going to be attacking first here. As always, the team with the lower time bank, the smaller amount of time available, is going to be the one on offense first. 1 minute and 6. It took them forever to be able to get through point A and to be able to get through the choke point. But if they're able to win this early initial neutral fight, Japan could go anywhere.
Yeah, it all comes down to these initial team fights. I tell you though, time and time again, they are struggling with heartbeats on this Mei. He's been absolutely brutalizing them with these Mei.
He has.
He's been placing them defensively.
The only reason that they were able to win on point A previously is because they had killed Heartbeat and he was on the respawn and forced to give up that room. They absolutely have to bait out this Mei wall. They must know it's coming. They have to go aggressive and then immediately anticipate it and back off. If the Mei wall isn't baited out and it finds value, it's all over for Japan.
This is it. One final push. 55 seconds on the clock here for Japan. Everything on the line. Their tournament life, if you will. This is the difference between going home 5,000 miles away, if you will. But a look at the aggressive engagement from Italy. They split off Kenmo. They bring him down. They freeze him up. 10 tries to initiate him with a kill. Good hold forwards. Brings Italy back into the fray, but the shields are there to defend them. Now, Japan, back to the drawing board. Straight back to spawn. They lose Kenmo. You can't take that fight.
With only 25 seconds left, though, not only do they have to get a clean engage through this choke point, they then have to run it all the way to the point. This is a disaster zone for Japan. Their movement is going to be so predictable because they must touch the point within 15 seconds.
Coming through the rotation, the Hulk comes down the ice wall as well. A little bit late, doesn't separate the majority of the team here. Still walking their way forward. 7 seconds remaining. The coalition's now unleashed by Japan. 10 trying to clutch this one, has to back off. Falls very, very low. The point now has been touched, and the overtime wick will be burning down here, but Asso with the pick onto 10 means there's no more initiation. Haku with a last-ditch desperation play is going to fade his way into the back line, but the Blizzard will prevent them from even contesting this point, and Italy will defend this point. Still an opportunity here for Japan. I won't rule them out just yet, but it's going to be very difficult considering how far Italy have been able to push this in. And they got 2 minutes 52 seconds as well to make it work.
Well, they've got to pray to the gods of Paris that they grant them a draw, as so many people get...
Stranger things have happened.
I mean, it's the most normal thing on Paris to get a draw. But with 2 minutes and 52 left, and with how good Italy have been in all of their pushes, especially utilizing the Mei walls, then I think it's going to be a real struggle for Japan here. They've got to draw deep. If they try some kind of Bastion setup, that could be amazing for them. But if they want to stick to their tried and true, they have to execute it better. Previously, Italy played slow with the Mei, managed to rotate around them, and then when 10 went aggressive, they killed him.
I'm so curious as to why Japan aren't attempting any sort of Bastion compositions here on Paris, because especially in these final moments, often you need these little sparks of brilliance from changing, from switching one thing up. The neutral game has not worked with the Reaper Doomfist. It hasn't worked out in their favor. They keep getting caught up and tripped up by the Mei Ice Walls from Heartbeat. This has been a real issue for them.
Yep, so the story of this entire match is that Japan have just struggled against the Mei, and we'll see it again here. 10 needs to get value before Heartbeat is in position. But this choke point still isn't easy to get through even for Italy. They have the Mei wall to be able to wall off a lot of the spam and allow them to get into the right-hand side from their perspective easily. But once they try and rotate around, that's where the Doomfist has to be felt.
Well, here we go, the Symmetron to the point. 1 tick is all that stands between Japan being knocked out. An early pick from Kenmo, make it 2. Will definitely assist Japan in keeping them still in this fight, still in this tournament. Fantastic read.
I would say, yes, a wonderful read from Japan. You could not ask for anything better if you are Team Japan and you're on the defense. Oh, what's that? You want to use a cheese strat and feed me a bunch of ultimates so that I have the momentum in the next couple of fights and can draw the map? Oh, thank you, Italy. Japan are running all the way to the bank with these ults, starting to generate them, and that could really come in handy because with Lil Young moving over to the Reaper, this next fight is going to be a little slow. Oh, I thought it was going to be slower. Japan have just jumped right in.
Aggressive. They're trying to take them by surprise, if you will. Italy, this team has been so good at disengaging, and it's actually worked out. The aggression has paid off in dividends. They've already picked up all the necessary kills. The ultimates are building, and Italy are left dumbfounded. They have 1:30 on the clock to try and work with here. Yes, they have a coalescence.
Yeah,
but Japan have more.
Yeah, Japan have almost everything they need to be able to take this fight. And once you tick down another minute on the clock, it's so difficult to be able to get that final tick. Japan have figured it out. They can't play slow because they just don't have the discipline, but if they play aggressive and force Italy to play to their tune, that's where they start to get the value. Rotation around the right-hand side here, and Coalescence used early on.
Holy moly! Haku's positioning here with his coalescence is absolutely absurd. He's playing from Argentina. Look at this, the flux comes out now from Japan as Kenmo runs them down, sinking it up with the meteor strike, and that'll be 4. Quick, make it 5. You know, it's just making me eat my words all over the place. 10, solid bloke, you know?
Yes, fantastic performance, so that's exactly what we needed from 10. The aggression, the Doomfist picks, these were all missing the rest of the series. We saw glimpses of it perhaps on Li Jiang, but apart from that, where has this 10 been?
Is he going for the bumper special? Are you kidding me?
I've never seen Bumper play Reaper, to be fair.
I have. Actually, it's one of his staples. The tail is not going to be finding him, rotating into him. They're going to be...
Samurai, so weak!
They've yoinked him forward, but Tayo! My word with the Death Blossom. He cleans him up. 2 kills for them. 20 seconds remaining now. A 20-player kill streak for Tayo. What a turnaround for Japan. This is absurd.
This is unbelievable stuff. Italy still have so many ultimates, but when they have to touch a point within 10 seconds. I don't even know how they're going to be able to do it. Adnar's got to be doing some funky rollout to be able to even get in position.
No one is on Wrecking Ball. They have to try and int onto the point. The Flux is used early on. They managed to touch it, but the Fade is used. The Speed Boost is used, and that frees up Teo to get all sorts of kills as Japan are just absolutely demolishing this team fight. The overtime is burning, but Japan do not care. They don't care if your week's burning, because they're going to beat it out of you, and they will claim the draw, keeping their tournament life still alive. Japan is still in it, Josh. I don't believe what I've just witnessed.
What an incredible showing by Japan just when it mattered. Insane. They make the necessary adaptations, and that's exactly what you want to see from a team like that. They looked so mentally out of it in the regular time of Paris. They wait for additional time. They turn up the tempo. 10 plays like an absolute beast. And they save themselves.
Unbelievable. And that kind of aggression, you know, when you corner a caged animal, that's often when they get the most dangerous. And, you know, we've often said Japan, you know, you don't want to corner Japan because of the aggressive players they've got. You never know when they might just come out swinging. They're going to go Super Saiyan. They're going to obliterate you. And Teo, they did just that. They absolutely demolished Italy. And I think Italy, I mean, if I was them, listen, here's the thing. Italy, is it still safe to say that they're the underdogs in this match? I don't think so. No. Italy have proved that they are the stronger team here. I think
so far, at least, in the series.
But here's the thing, it can slip just as easily away from you. And it's that mental game that we were discussing earlier. When Japan got full health before that first checkpoint on Junkertown, we were saying, are they going to be able to bounce back? Well, bounce back they did. They're still in this match. Now, they're not out of the fire just yet.
No.
Because there's potentially 6 maps to have been played in this series if Japan had to bring this back.
Yep.
I think
if Japan wins on control here when we go over
They
to
would've tied it up.
Oasis. They tie up the series. We continue. This series is a first to 3. You have to get that number 3 on the board. You need those 3 map wins. Otherwise, you do not progress in the bracket. What a series so far from Italy and Japan.
I love
It's
it.
been
I love to see it.
insanely close.
And this is what we wanted from these teams. I mean, we said it when this match was drawn up. We said we are expecting big things from it. I'm so glad that Japan have not just faltered. I'm so glad that they've actually, stood up to the test that Italy has brought to them and managed to just drag this into a 5th map for us.
Wonderful stuff. Absolutely incredible. And they started very well on Lijiang Tower at the beginning of this series. They won our first round. We know that they can play control. And especially when the maps get a little wider and they don't favor the Mei as much. Lijiang is a very closed-off map. Once they start to get a little wider, like Night Market, like most of the rounds on Oasis, that I think is where you can see Japan start to come into this.
Yeah. And I mean, I cannot think of actually a better map to play into the way Japan were playing and against the antithesis of what Italy were trying to do than Oasis. Very open. Yes, there are choke points like there are on many other maps, but less opportunities to try and get value out of the main. Now, the question is, can Japan keep their mental intact for this game moving forwards? Because they are still down a map in this series. I mean, if they win this control, it's all well and good, but they still got one more game to go. But I think you've just got to take it one step at a time, one map at a time, look at an Oasis first. How can we get the advantage? We've seen some early Farah coming out from Hoshima, or Hoshimi, I should say. I'm curious if they're trying to bring it out, actually. I mean, Oasis is thought of as a classic Farah map. Again, it has similar traits to Iconvolve with this long, tall cover and a lot of high skyboxes, allowing your Farah to really get into these off angles. Curious to see if we will see any subs come out from Japan.
And we've seen, as we went and looked and talked to some of the teams a little earlier on in the day, that during these downtime periods, they are discussing with their coaches are watching with them, talking between themselves, talking to their 7th player as well in terms of Japan about what the strategy is for the next map, how to make these micro adjustments. And as they come into Oasis here, both teams will be prepared. And both teams are getting a good read on how their opponent's style and tempo
I love it,
plays
actually.
into it.
You're really starting to see the flavor of these teams come out in so many ways. Now, the danger of this is, as you get later into the tournament, that you're going to start to run into issues where the teams later in the tournaments who have the higher seeds are going to have a huge amount of footage to review on a lot of these teams.
I don't think you can review all of the footage, honestly. I think
You don't think there's enough time?
there are 5 simultaneous streams running of the Overwatch World Cup. And yes, you only have to prep for a small amount of the 40 teams that were actually here. But that's a huge amount of work for teams that are already doing their best to just work on their own gameplay. I think for a lot of these teams, like Team USA, for example, who have today off, who can just sit in that group stage and watch, they need to be looking at specific select opponents, like, for example, the UK, who are playing today.
Yeah.
They won't be looking at teams coming out of Group C, for example, like your Swedens of your world, your Japans of the world, your Italys of the world. Those are the 3 teams that could come out of, there's still Philippines and Colombia. Not actually sure how those games are going. They're happening on a different stream. Looks like Colombia actually were able to take the win. So for these kind of teams that are at the top, I think they're going to underestimate a lot of these smaller teams coming through. There's big upset potential in an open bracket system like this.
Yes, absolutely. I was a little bit scared myself of Team UK potentially getting knocked out. I thought it might happen. We've seen it with tournaments like this before.
I mean, Team UK last time were the underdogs and managed to knock out the United States in the quarterfinals. So certainly these
now
things can happen.
They're in the same group again. I love that. I love it that they're in the same
More
group.
opportunity for revenge.
It's such a good rivalry that's brewing between those 2 teams. But in the meantime, we've got a rivalry of our own right here brewing. It is still, if you're just joining us, Japan versus Italy, as you can see on your screens. Italy currently leading 1-0, but Japan have just brought it back from the brink of destruction and managed to get a draw here onto Paris. They've extended, they've given themselves a bit of a lifeline, if you will, because this is a single elimination bracket. The loser of this match will be going home, and they've traveled a very long way to be here.
They certainly have. Thousands and thousands of miles for both of these teams to come here and have an opportunity to compete. Both teams we've seen previously at World Cups, both teams that have the skill to be able to make it into our qualification process most years, never mind what the system is. But this year, a lot of opportunity to take on new names, new faces. You know, it's possible that they would go up against Colombia later on in Group C. That would require Colombia to beat Team Sweden, which would be an incredible upset of unbelievable proportions.
Yes, yeah.
But the potential still is there.
Ready for battle.
Brent, here's a little quick question about Oasis. Is Oasis the only map in Overwatch where the nationality of the map, the country that the map is based, is not here in the World Cup? I believe this map is based in Iraq.
That's an interesting one.
I mean, we had Lijiang with China. We had Eichenwald with Germany. We had Paris,
5, 4,
which is France.
Obviously, yeah. I'm tempted to say, because this is going to be a weird one. Actually, I'm not even too sure if we will see Watchpoint Gibraltar. I think it's a little bit later on in the tournament.
Yep.
But technically, Watchpoint Gibraltar does not have a team. Gibraltar does not have a team. However, it's enough about that and more about getting on with this game, because it's for all the marbles at this point in Japan. On a knife's edge, and they're trying to work an advantage in, and that is a fantastic start as Kenmo opens it up with a kill into Heartbeat. And this is where they start to figure out the tempo of Italy. And what makes them tick a little bit. Italy's still trying to keep themselves in this game, as Dragon Eddie collects a kill onto 10, being a bit overly aggressive once more. But enough that Japan can
slam into uppercut engage from 10, which allowed him to apply a lot of CC onto everybody else on Italy, held them in place so that damage could rain in from multiple directions, and Japan get a wonderful little engage. We have seen the halts comboed less and less as the series goes on, and the game gets more and more chaotic. But Japan are turning up the heat again.
Coalescence gets used here by Haku, and that's enough damage, enough sustain for his team to take advantage of that one. And, oh my word, I didn't even see that one, but Italy ended up using the Coalescence as well.
Yep.
Not what you want to see, really. That trade did not get them the value they were looking for when it comes to using those ultimates.
True, yes, but you have to pop the Coalescence to have any chance of winning that fight, and it just resets with Haku as well. So, not too bad for them. The major issue that I see is that Japan are racking up to all of their other ultimates, including the Supercharger. So they can just keep playing aggressive, and if they cycle their ults correctly, they can get this to like 70%.
Oh, 10 initiates into the backline. Meteor Strike used as a bit of a get-out-of-free-jail card. That's not quite enough, though, as well. The accretion, the hold, pulls him back, brings him down, and Italy have 2 openings to work with. Lil Young with the Death Blossom, if he needs it. I don't think he does. He's just going to be able to primary fire his way to victory here, as it will be Italy retaking this point, but not before Japan have earned quite a sizable chunk of the percentage on this first round of Oasis.
Well, 10 went in, and he tried to get something done. Meteor striked out and was looking for the halt to come in.
It just didn't connect.
The halt kind of missed a little bit, and then Dragon Eddie knew exactly what was happening. He charged up the rock as he saw the halt come in. It was way too predictable and got a lovely accretion onto 10. Stunned him up and got that pick. Now it's Italy in control. And both Superchargers and Gravitic Fluxes and Sound Barriers available.
So
expect this one to get crazy.
Anyone's game at this point, but 10 gets a nice little pick down to Lil Young. That could set things up very wonderfully. The Supercharger gets prioritized there by Fryu as he brings it down. That means no more damage boost advantage for them. Healing Orb as well, keeping up the rest of his team. It looks like this fight is going to be going Italy's way. Now the Kinetic Grass will give Kenmo a little bit of shield. Well, 10 wants to try and initiate this fight back in.
Yeah, the DPS just weren't alive for Team Italy. And so even though you had both tanks and both supports available,
holy moly,
and a numbers advantage, it's 10 who's uncontested with the Sigma shield from Kenmo and goes wild. 10 and Teo just pushing them back into a corner and securing pick after pick. 75% on the first round of Oasis.
And 10 got the pick onto Adna, which means they didn't have a sound barrier. I mean, in this scenario, I don't think they wanted to utilize it anyway because Kenmo is working with this flux. You kind of want to save it for that, just to have something to offset it, if you will.
Definitely.
But we're moving in now, and Italy have to push in to this fight. They're going to be taking a long approach all the way around, but the flux comes out early. That's going to be Adna. Adna has to use the sound barrier to try and keep his team back into this Meteor Strike.
Oh, both Meteor Strikes have been used
Comes
as
straight
well.
in here. Great kill into Lil Young, but Asso immediately responds back with an equal trade as 10 will fall here. Now he's a tile, goes into the backline. Death Blossom, no value, as Heartbeat just moves all the way back behind him, but he still falls in the end. Italy losing players left, right, and center as Japan look to press the advantage moving forward. The aggressive teleport straight into the backline. The sound barrier as well means that this is looking like more and more it is going to be going Japan's way, Josh.
Yeah, really nice control of the ultimates and a clutch play coming out from 10 in the previous fight. Sets Japan up for a very nice first round on Oasis.
I don't believe it.
The garden stage is theirs, and they are so close to getting this series back even.
One round away. One round, that's all Japan need, and they are going to even up against Italy. Bringing it back from the brink. I cannot stress enough how impressive it is if they manage to do this and bring it to a 6 map in this series.
Japan looked almost mentally out of it once we got to Junkertown. They absolutely got steamrolled on the escort map. But they held in the grit and determination coming out from these players. These guys only really get one chance a year to perform on the big stage.
Yeah.
Their players, although they've made forward moves in the Overwatch contenders scene, and they're starting to get picked up and recognized across the world, it's mainly the World Cup performances that dictate these players' careers. And Japan want to stay here and keep competing.
Japan going to have that early space advantage. They use the Symmetra teleport to try and get a bit of an edge over the opponents. Italy not opting into it, but still, the high ground now gained by Japan. We'll see what they opt to do here, because Italy have at least a bit of control of the point, but the trouble is, this control point is so massive, it's hard to really contest this one. Huge amounts of damage being pumped in him from Teo as well as the high ground.
And that means that Lil Young has to drop off, so an opportunity for Japan to force the tempo of this fight.
Well, here we go. Look at this, clashing straight into them, and Heartbeat falls. Great punch from 10. This is what he's known for. The seismic slam into the uppercut, into the punch. There's too much damage to work with in Japan. Oh, they're looking monstrous right now.
They really are. Once it comes to this Doomfist Reaper mirror, Japan have just got the advantage. They are really struggling with the Mei on a bunch of different maps, but when it just comes down to this, the mirror, the meta mirror, 10 is having all the space to be able to work with and getting huge value out of his Doomfist.
Yeah, this is the antithesis of Heartbeat. I mean, when he's on this Doomfist, he's not getting the same value as he is out of the Mei, but here we have it, Coalescence traded by both these teams at the same time. No advantage going to be had by both of them. A lot of sustain coming out here, and we see 10 trying to set up the Meteor Strike. Holt, a little bit off the mark, but he still finds a kill to Heartbeat regardless. The Seismic Slam, the quick 180. Not quite enough. The punch, so aggressive by 10, but he knows his team is backing him up.
So aggressive!
Is working his way all the way into the backline. 10.
What are you doing, 10?
I don't even know. He's overexcited, you know.
But these are the mistakes that can really make a series just slip out of your grasp.
But it does make it fun.
It does make it fun.
It does make it fun.
He was trying to spawn camp them there. I mean, there's aggressive and then there's inting. Just straight up feeding it, running it down mid. That's what 10 did there. And that means that they have to back off. They have to back off. Huge flux ability here, though.
Flux comes out. It's going to connect onto 1 or 2 players. No sound barrier from Adna. The damage is done, and that is going to be enough to bring down Heartbeat here. Damage mitigation, Coalescence now being utilized by Japan to try and take this team fight. The Death Blossom coming out from Lil Young, but he's not able to get any kills. In fact, the ultimates are just too powerful, but Italy have an opportunity to come straight back into this one. Dragon Eddy's Flux has cracked it open as Zerafi ends up falling. No more sound barrier, no more speed boost, I should say, to engage around these corners.
Teo went for a flank instead of helping his Orisa, and Lil Young just runs him over.
They still have to supercharge her up though, Josh. It just about fades only now, but it's enough damage for them to get some action done on the point. And Lil Young, he's 22 HP. They're still contesting this point.
Italy need to turn this. It's 95%. Japan could get right back in this series if they just win this fight. It's overtime already, and Italy have barely even fought.
Oh, Heartbeat, the Seismic Slam will bring down Teo as well as he was finding himself in the background. Now 10's going to be using this Meteor Strike, trying to just connect it with anyone. Uppercut into the punch, not enough damage, and it will be Italy claiming enough kills now that they should be able to flip this point back in their favor.
Finally stabilized, and a victory for Italy, but they are struggling here. They have all the ults, they can start pushing things forward, but Japan only need one fight. If they are able to execute or find a couple of picks from 10, they should be able to lock up this round and go towards a win. This is going to be tough now for Italy. They need clean wins in these next couple of team fights without using too many ultimates.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Italy, they have this Flux available to them. Dragon Eddy has been so good with them, but they're going to opt instead to use an early Supercharger and the Flux on top. Remember, there's no damage mitigation to try and stop this one.
Oh,
Kinetic Flux does a lot of damage. This is wonderful.
That's all over the
play by Japan.
Sure, but all over the place from Italy. Really early bongo means that they just get no value out of it whatsoever. And even though there's two people, both of the tanks caught in the gravitic flux, again, no follow-up.
Coalescence traded by both these teams. 10 misses the punch, tried to cancel out the enemy team's Coalescence, but doesn't get it done. This time Heartbeat is going to initiate in with the Meteor Strike, but 10 comes in out of nowhere. The uppercut, the seismic slam, it's just enough damage, and he brings him down. The punch not quite finding too much, but he's working his team back onto the point. They found enough space now. Heartbeat is a straggler in the midst. He's like a little puppy lost in the streets. He can't find the rest of his team. He's brought down out of nowhere. Kenmo absolutely obliterating. It's 99%. Japan, I don't believe what I'm just witnessing. They're going to be able to secure it, and they bring it to a map 6.
That is absolutely bananas. Japan looked down and out after Junkertown, and 2 insane maps later, a draw on Paris where they're able to clutch the victory just straight out of the grasp of Italy, and then ride it home with all of that momentum in the Doomfist Reaper mirror. 10 has played a stonking finish towards the end of this series.
I mean,
he's been
stonking's one
so
word.
good.
I am shocked, astounded. Japan have brought this back from the brink. It is now 2-2. We are going to a map 6
2-2 with a draw on
with
Paris.
a draw on Paris. In
It
the
does not get any
preliminary
closer.
rounds, we are going to a map 6.
I'm going to be real with you. I don't know what the map 6 is.
It's another control map, I believe.
That's insane. Just
It's another
absolute
control map.
insanity. Team Italy is so good when it comes down to that Mei usage. It has just been rocking Japan every time they've brought it out. Halfbeat's Mei walls are so intelligent. The way that he uses them, they divide the back line and the front line. Japan had no answer to it. But as soon as you get them into that Reaper Doomfist mirror, they know exactly how to play the composition. 10
Slamming
tears you
it.
up. Samurai D with the great halts. Teo with flanks, sometimes a little too flanky, but generally speaking, getting the job done. And they were very disciplined. Aggressive, but generally speaking, disciplined. And we go to a third control of the series. Nepal will be our decider map.
Now, generally speaking in Overwatch, the team to take the initial control map is the one to win the series because it gives you such an overwhelming advantage in terms of a lot that goes on. It gives you this early lead. It helps you get into the right mental state of mind. I cannot stress enough how much of a ridiculous win it would be if Japan were able to win on back-to-back control maps.
Yeah.
Italy, they look lost when they can't default back onto this Mei compositions. Now, the good news for them is that Nepal has a lot of choke points.
A lot of great points to use Mei on.
A lot of great points to use Mei on. And this is going to be where Japan are truly, truly tested. It could not have gone further. 6 maps is what we've gone to here in the preliminary rounds. I mean, absolutely absurd.
Village, of course, the home of Mei. That point almost designed, made for Mei walls. Trapping people in, separating their backline from their front line. It's going to be a huge test for Japan as to how they deal with the Mei again. We've seen the success on Paris, once it came to that additional time, was by turning up the tempo, going aggressive themselves, running past the Mei wall and just trying to overwhelm them. But can they do it twice?
That's the question, right? Can they do it twice in a row? I hope we've sold it to you, the audience at home, as how much of a ridiculous win it would be if Japan ended up taking this match here. And remember as well, I've got to stress it. This is a single elimination bracket. The loser of this match will be going home before BlizzCon even begins on the Thursday. There is so much pressure on these young players' shoulders on both sides to perform. Japan does not get many opportunities to perform on a world stage like this. They are putting everything into this match, all of their energy. Italy, what initially having the edge, they've just sort of crumbled towards the tail end when they couldn't default back onto their main compositions. This has been an astounding series.
It absolutely has. And the major names that we thought would be big playmakers have stepped up. But we've also seen new faces as well. Dragon Eddie has been very, very good. Always in the right position,
yes,
getting a lot of work done. The damage, the shielding, the fluxes have all, generally speaking, been very, very good from Dragon Eddie. But
Absolutely.
new names as well. Adnar on the Lucio has been defining so much of how this team plays. And Heartbeat's Mei walls, very good as well. The discipline that Italy has been playing with, excellent. These are definitely players to look out for. And over
I'm
on
so
Team
glad.
Japan, I mean, the tank line that we all know and love has been back again, just ripping things up. And 10, a fairly new player who's having success in the open division, is now a name on the international stage.
Yeah, Italy, I feel like we haven't particularly been giving enough credit to those players, so I'm glad you pointed them out. Adnar, with his Lucio, as you said, it's been defining for Italy in a lot of these fights. The disengages, when they were going up against India earlier today, the disengage is what made and break that match a lot of the time. It's his Lucio play that has sealed the deal. And Dragon Eddie, of course, as well. I mean, this guy is looked up to, I imagine, in Italy as a leadership figure, as a veteran presence, the guy who has had a lot of competitive experience.
Yep. Also, a shout out to the coach of Team Italy as well, Joint, who was part of the coaching staff for Team India as well. Weirdly,
Yes.
we discussed that in our first game, but also coaches a team called Warriors, which is a top New Zealand team. New Zealand did incredibly well so far as well, nearly knocked out their hometown rivals Australia too. So the coaching staff for Italy clearly showing through the style that they play. It's just hyper disciplined, very much around Adnar and the May walls, and they very rarely have players that are too far out of position or end up getting picked early on in fights. What they're struggling with at the moment is sheer overwhelming aggression when it comes to the Reaper Doomfist mirror. And they just simply don't have an answer for it.
Yeah. I'll be
Halfbeat,
honest,
I
Josh.
think, despite his proficiency on the May, has not had an outstanding performance on the Doomfist so far.
I am bouncing around, over-caffeinated, overexcited at the way this series is progressing. I have to sit myself down because I'm just jiggling the entire table around. But my word, I can only imagine. I mean, it's taking a while to get into this, but there is a lot to prep for. This is the turning point for both of these teams for their competitive history right now. And this is it. It comes down to this one map of control, as so many maps have before in Overwatch. In Overwatch's history as a competitive title, but this time for Japan, this time for Italy.
And it's the third control map of the series. Imagine how much stuff you have to review there, because the first one on Lijiang, there are certain points that work quite similarly to the way that Nepal goes, and that one goes the way of Italy. Then you have the Oasis one, where it's basically the May is totally taken out of the equation, and it's all Team Japan. So for Italy in particular, who will be working closely with Joint, their coach, they have to think and come up with a game plan that works effectively for them. Leaning on that May seems like the right play.
Yeah.
It will get big value on Village. You can run it on Sanctum as well. Shrine, a little more difficult, but still potential.
Yes, yeah, it is actually. I mean, a lot of great choke points to use. I'll say this. This is astounding. I was going to say it's going to come down to RNG as to what the first stage is. Genuinely.
Sure.
Because if it came to Village, it would have given Italy a bit of an edge here. Instead, working way over here. As you can see, Japan once again going to be opting for the Symmetra to try and get this early rollout. But it looks like Italy are opting into this kind of mirror match against Japan, running this Reaper Doomfist, which
I think
Japan have been dominant at.
I think, though, it makes sense for this stage. This is a Doomfist stage. The Doomfist can get so much work done here. So believe in your strat, believe in how you were able to find success early on in the series for Italy. Try and make the Reaper Doomfist work.
Well, here we have it. You can see the impact the Symmetra has. They get the early point pressure for Japan. Already battering Italy back just a little bit now. Dragon Eddie just trying to get a bit of chip damage in. Primary fire of Sigma. The shield comes in from the side, trying to take the offline. Does the accretion. Comes into the backline, does connect.
So much damage being piled into Samurai D here. His fortifies are missing slightly, and he has been punched and rocked a couple of times. In comes a halt as well, and a lot of damage on the Team Japan.
Coalescence comes out, though, early from Italy, but it's going to be a better one from Haku as he ends up popping it off. The team, the sustain is there, and 10 makes good usage of it with the help of his tank. Kills coming in abound. Another great accretion from Dragon Eddie, but not enough to try and help them out with this one. And look at this, the stagger kill is going to be excellent. Japan in control of the point.
It's interesting how good the micro disengages are from Japan in the Reaper Doomfist mirror. They know how to play the spacing of this composition. They don't play too far forward so that the Reaper of Lil Young can actually get value. They sit a little further back. This is the perfect distance to play Reaper Doomfist mirrors, but it totally messes them up when the May is involved.
Now we see 10 has the meteor strike. He's going to be going for an aggressive engage because he knows he can use it just like this. Trying to disengage, but Heartbeat is one step ahead. The hold though, great plays coming out from Japan right now. Punch from 10, just about going to miss, but he ends up following it up regardless. The support line decimated. Adna still alive, able to clutch up a little kill here onto Kenmo. But for how much longer, as the Coalescence will be used by Japan. Maybe unnecessary there, just to clean up and win that team fight.
When it's when it's at this kind of level, the Dragon Eddy kill is so bad,
Yeah,
honestly,
that's
because
a huge stagger.
that's an enormous stagger that's going to allow Haku to start getting up to his ultimates, and Kenmo as well. There'll be a lot of damage coming in here from Japan. But generally speaking, when things get this tense, you see teams tend to throw in more ultimates. They just want to make sure that they have secured the point. And now the ult economy has flipped massively in favor of Italy.
Well, we'll see what they can do now as they're engaging Dragon. Eddie's
That's
going to be
so
using
aggressive.
that flux so early on, but look at this, Japan respond in spades. The supercharger's laid down. The Death Blossom from Lil Young does manage to gain 2 more kills of his own, and the 3rd. They just about managed to turn that one around. I'll be honest with you, Josh, so many flashing colors, so many lights. It looked like it was going Japan's way.
Well, Japan managed to find the early pick, but what they had done is put Lil Young in a very aggressive far back area where he went on a long flank, and the timing was perfect. It synced up with the supercharger from Asso, found 2 picks early on, and then another 2 afterwards. A 4K from Lil Young completely secures the team fight win and starts ticking them up on the point. Japan to answer.
Japan, and they have an advantage when it comes to Coalescence. They've got it if they want to engage with it. Heartbeat, look at him in the back line. He's going to try and engage with a punch. Oh my word, he cancels the Coalescence. The one thing they needed to do in that fight, and Heartbeat finds it.
Wonderful play by the Doomfist player from Italy. We wanted him to step up, and he's doing it in the final map of the series. Asso takes down Samurai D, and Japan is still fighting this, despite the fact they had their Moira down. There was no chance there, but just a quick reset.
They force out the Coalescence. Not all bad for Japan. Italy, very clean with a lot of this engaging and disengaging, and Heartbeat, I've got to give this guy credit. I mean, cancelling the Coalescence in that scenario.
Making the play
Beautiful.
exactly when it was needed.
Not gonna lie, Haku just got caught with an accretion straight up into the air. I just spotted that.
That's amazing. Dragon Eddy loves going for those. We've seen him do it all series long, and especially when they were playing against India, going for huge rocks just into the air, predicting where people are going to be when they land.
Now this should be another free fight for Italy. Japan needs to take this fast because Dragon Eddy has the flux. If they use this, I mean, there's no sound barrier to answer this one. We're starting to see them. You can see the Meteor Strike being used by Heartbeat to engage this one in. Time is being wasted. Great flux coming out now from Japan. Lays it down. A lot of damage, but can they get the picks? The Coalescence is there, but not quite coinciding on the right targets they need. I spoke too soon. Haku collects one onto Adnar, brings him down out of the fight with 75% to his ult. Japan should be able to flip this one, providing they keep their players up.
Yeah, wonderful plays, honestly, from Japan. And again, just the spacing is perfect. Heartbeat goes in, utilizes a Meteor Strike and finds no value from it. Then as Italy retreat to keep their Doomfist alive, Kenmo catches 3 of them in a huge gravitic flux that ends up turning the tide of the fight. And this is it, final fight territory for the first round of the last map.
Ultimate's coming online for Japan. We see the supercharger early by Italy. They're looking to try and lead their advantage. They bring down Kenmo. The flux is going to be out as well as the soundbite to try and counter it. And Tenmo, 10 moves in with the punch, but it's too little too late. The overtime is ticking down, but Italy will be able to flip this point over in their favor at 95%, meaning they are going to be able to take this first round of control in map 6 of this match between Italy and Japan.
Unbelievable stuff. The overtime has been triggered here by Kenmo, but with the composition that Japan has, this is all but over. And Italy have taken the round on Nepal that they were least likely to win. This is Reaper Doomfist territory. This was Japan with the advantage early on. The next 2 rounds, if it even goes that far, are very May favored. Italy now in a sublime position to be able to take this series.
I'm going to be going over to the Sanctum section, which means that it is choke pointy, but not as many opportunities for May as you might think.
No, it's definitely Village that favors the May the most. If you want to force it, you could try and get some value out of a May here if you were in control of the point, but for the opening salvo, the Doomfist is just way too important. You need the one-shot ability, the threat of the flank as well, to spread teams out and make them constantly look behind them.
Teams roll out potentially for the last time in this series, and we will see what they can do. Japan have taken an early high ground lead as they've rotated around the point. Italy deciding to take the little point, a little alcove here. Healing Orb's going to be utilized here by Freyu, trying to build up his ultimate as fast as humanly possible. Gets chunked down a little bit, forced to use the fade early. is going to back off, and now we see Japan looking to engage from the behind. Great wraparound by 10. Knocks him up into the air with the uppercut. Great punch onto Adnar as well. Falling very low, but his team is keeping him up, and he goes for another punch in the meantime. Uppercut straight into the seismic slam, staying alive, and the damage he's pumping in is just far too potent. And Italy are going to have to reset this one, take it back. But once again, Japan take the initial round of this control.
Very tense moments here. Japan with a really nicely executed flank from 10. Whips around behind, and in the neutral engagements, Japan have had the better end of it most of the time in the Reaper Doomfist mirror. But Italy are so disciplined in how they utilize these ultimates that there always seems to be a way back into it for them. They're going to push here, probably with Coalescence for both teams.
Italy going for the wraparound, and they catch 10 out of position. Not what you want to see if you're a fan of Japan right now, but if you're a fan of Italy, you definitely want to see that one. Coalescence is traded out. In the end, it's going to be sustained for both sides. Teo manages to even out the scoreline with that opening pick, but now the sound buyers are going to be committed here by Japan. They want to try and win this fight, and if they don't, it'll be disastrous. The punch from Heartbeat is just about going to miss, but he finds the kill regardless. Seismic slam into them, knocks a few of the players up. 10 smashed against the floor, turned into mincemeat, and Italy will turn this fight around, but not before Japan claim around 50% of the control point.
We've occasionally been praising Japan's loose, aggressive style, but 10's first death there, and then their use of the sound barrier may be what ends up hurting them in the long run. They do take it up to 50%. They never lost control of the point, so all of that time, they're still accruing percentage points, which isn't so bad. But now they don't have a sound barrier available for this Flux, and I don't see a way in which they win this against Dragon Eddie's Gravitic Flux. This is just going to be huge.
Going to be a one fight. You see Dragon Eddie is taking his time before he wants to use this. He knows it's going to be a tight win. Flux comes out, connects onto a couple of players here. Kenmo falls as well. Samurai cannot get down a shield. The Meteor Strike used by 10 to try and get any sort of value out of this team fight. He does force a couple of ultimates, but it will be Italy taking this team fight once again.
And that's because Zerafi used his sound barrier in the previous fight to try and clutch. There wasn't much potential for it. I can see why you want to go for it, especially when you're in control of the point. But now we've got a situation where Italy, they only had to use 2 ultimates to be able to take, or rather retain, control of Sanctum. Japan on offense here, and they've got their own Flux to work with. Adnar is taking a long time to build these ults.
Long rotation by Japan. Bit undecisive. They don't really know which direction they want to take this in. Instead, going onto the point, they actually spot Little Young just holding into the back there. Group attempt comes out, but Teo manages to find himself back onto the point. The Death Blossom, is it enough damage? Not quite, the team is there, but the left clicks will definitely do it as he brings down one, but it looks like Italy come out on top once again, perfectly kiting Japan back into them, accepting the blow and working around them and crushing them.
Yep, Italy is a very understanding team in how positioning can win you team
and
fights.
This is it.
They just allow the tank line to get sucked in and collapse on them from behind, and they are 10% away from going forwards in our bracket.
So close, yet so far right now for Japan. One opportunity to do this now, and it comes down to this next team fight. They touch the point. Samurai gonna lay down the shield, gets a good positioning onto it. The Wrecking Ball comes out by Kenmo. Tayo gets an opening pick onto Heartbeat. It forces the sound barrier out from Italy, but it's not particularly good. 10 and Teo end up clutching just when it matters. They find the picks they need. Japan still in this game.
How do they always pull it out when it's required? Team Japan managed to flip the point at 99% against a sound barrier when they had Kenmo on Wrecking Ball. When the odds are stacked against them, it seems like Tayo and 10 play twice as good as usual.
Shouldn't have been able to do that against Italy. I'll be real with you. The Wrecking Ball is not ideal. You lose in the neutral game now. And Italy are going to be engaging once again.
They have to turn up the speed. When they have the Wrecking Ball, they have to turn up the speed, get big slams, and try and rely on Tayo and 10 to clutch.
That's the win condition. Kenmo gets the adaptive shields off. He's going to heal up. Knocks him into the low ground here. The Flux comes out
Teo!
from Italy's. Nice soundbar is going to keep them alive. And Teo finds the opening pick. Finds a second one. Can he find any more? The Death Blossom gets castled by the accretion of Dragon Eddie. But Kenmo with the knockoffs will find the picks. And it's an instant reset from Italy. But I think it might be too late.
Asso,
8% and counting.
Asso's forced to switch onto the Wrecking Ball. He gets halted away and killed by Teo.
Nobody can touch. Nobody can touch the point here. Somebody gets on. Little Young into the backline, uses the Death Blossom to try and clutch this one out. Falls very, very low, but he's not dead yet. Trying to keep his hopes alive for Italy now. Freya with the Coalescence manages to get the pick onto 10 once again. Kenmora almost with the mines. So close, 1%. Pops him up onto the point. He's going to be getting that zone denial, and he picks up 2 kills.
Kenmo!
Absolutely ridiculous, and Japan are still in this match.
That is phenomenal! Unbelievable plays
That's
from Japan.
ridiculous.
They pull it back from the brink over and over and over in this series. Junkertown, they got ruined, but smacked back immediately
What
on
am I
Paris.
What
Then
am I watching?
The next control map goes the way of Japan, and this one, the Reaper do mirror. We favored them. They looked like they were going to lose both times, and they bring it to a third.
And this is really rare.
It all comes down
matters.
to
It all
this.
comes down to this.
There could not be a better way to solve this series than to have Japan running Reaper Doomfist and Italy running May Reaper on a point like this. Can Japan work around Heartbeat's May walls?
I don't know. I really don't know. But this is what it comes down to. The one thing that's stuck with Japan, that's caused them so many issues, is Heartbeat's May. This pick, and we could not have gone to the best map for it right now. We're on the village section of Nepal. It is May's home ground. I'm not just saying that because the snow decor. Kenmo goes for the accretion, doesn't quite find any value. The high ground once again being prioritized by Japan. The shield's going to come laid down. Look at the aggression by Italy moving into the background.
Oh, but they found a pick!
Great pick down to Freyo, but is it enough? They're being frozen up, out of control right now. Still anyone's game, but it looks like Italy have the early lead. And with those 3 picks, they will be out to claim this initial point.
They are so good at being able to work around this May. They turn up the tempo, their target prioritization is excellent, and despite the fact they lose their Moira at the beginning, Lil Young and Heartbeat working together on the May Reaper, isolate targets and finish them off. Italy are looking good to be able to take this series in the final round of the 6th map.
But this is it now, Japan going for a speedy re-engage. Look at the death roll, I should say. Teleport coming into the backline there by Teo, but he ray forms away.
Huge
nice
uppercut.
seismic slam into the uppercut, gets frozen up, but his team is there to defend. Now we see the speed boost being used by Italy to disengage this one. Gives an opening for them. Dragon Eddy goes down, the hold as well, pushed back. 10 now going to be using a Meteor Strike. Let's see if he can get any value out of it. Comes down, does enough damage to the rest of the team. It looks like Japan are going to be able to take this, but it's a scrappy fight. The heals are still there. Italy could clutch this one out, especially when you see the Death Blossom coming out from Lil Young like that.
Absolutely clutch. Lil Young just getting his ultimate in time and finding an opportunity to kill 10. Japan is still committing to this. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bongo committed from Samurai D.
This is
They
ridiculous.
really, really want to turn the fight
Samurai
here.
so low, he couldn't use it, and I'm glad he didn't because they need to save this one. At this point, it's a lost cause. They still want to try and fight this when they're going in here, trying to force out ults. They get the Blizzard out. 10 comes in with a pick onto Adnan at the back, but he's brought down just as quickly as Adnan is. Now,
Was it worth?
Was it worth it?
20 seconds of fighting and 20 seconds of capture time for Italy to force out a Blizzard. Maybe. That's what Japan did, though. They'll have to live with that decision.
and this is it. It all comes down, all the marbles. 80% for Italy. They are so close to knocking Japan out of this competition. They are so close to moving forward in the preliminary rounds. Punch comes out early. There's no sound barrier to stop it. They all come falling down. They have to commit the ult, but I think it is done and dusted. Italy have the advantage in almost every single metric. 96% and counting. Ladies and gentlemen, Italy have bested Japan, and they will be moving forward in the preliminary rounds of the 2019 Overwatch World Cup.
Huge plays by Italy towards the end there. Dragon Eddy, who we all know from previous years of the World Cup, lands a 4-man flux, and Zorafi dies at 99% of his sound barrier.
Brutal.
The tiniest little difference
Brutal.
separating these two teams in the end. And Japan, despite an insane performance and an incredible match, will be going home.
Now, we said that that was going to be a good match. We did say that. We were expecting it at least, but I was not expecting that. And Japan, I mean, they fought hard. And they brought it to the brink against Italy, but they could not conquer the May, the discipline from Italy, being able to work around the Lucio speed boost, being able to work around the May ice walls, and it ended up beating them, besting them as we went to that final section of Nepal Village. Now, that was just the second match that we've casted today. Now, we have 3 more, and I don't know if my voice will hold out, because that was just an absurd series, just in every single metric. But with that being said, we're going to take a short break. The next match, I believe that me and Sideshow will be commentating will be Singapore versus South Africa. Take a short break. We'll be right back with even more Overwatch World Cup 2019 action. See you then.
The 2019 Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. Omen, the official PC and display of the Overwatch World Cup. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch World Cup.